The story continues right where we left off. Tingen had barely caught its breath when danger struck again. Ince's carefully laid scheme finally came to fruition. Migos began her horrifying transformation into something no mother should ever become, carrying within her the child of an evil god, a living catastrophe waiting to be unleashed upon the world. Captain Dunn didn't hesitate. He used St. Selena's ashes one final time and saved the city, sacrificing everything he had in the process. His heroic act settled over Tingen like a solemn farewell. But just when it seemed the nightmare had ended, the true mastermind emerged from the shadows. Ince Zangwill struck down both Klein and Dunn with ruthless precision, stole the sacred ashes, and vanished without a trace. The tragedy deepened with each passing moment. Yet in the cold darkness of his own grave, Klein's eyes opened once more. The mysterious power dwelling within him pulled him back from death's embrace. He rose with a single burning promise carved into his heart. He would hunt down Ince Zangwill and make him pay. The path of vengeance had begun. And with that, Volume 2 begins, a new chapter with darker challenges ahead. Roselle's diary holds secrets that will expose the hidden depths of the secret order, revealing truths buried for centuries. The Tarot Club grows stronger, its members gaining mysterious abilities that allow them to exchange items across impossible distances. Klein's life as a detective takes its first tentative steps with a simple missing cat case. But now, a second case awaits. Far more sinister and dangerous than the first. Another detective has disappeared, and someone in the city is manipulating events from behind an invisible curtain. Whether Sherlock Moriarty can escape this deadly trap or fall victim to it will determine the course of everything that follows. The second book opens at chapter 214 with Klein seated on a train, arriving at his destination, Backlund. This isn't just any city. Backlund is the largest metropolis in the kingdom, split down the middle by the Tussock River. The two halves connect through a network of bridges and ferries, and over 5 million people call this place home. But the population isn't the only thing that's staggering. The pollution rivals it in sheer intensity. From morning onwards, thick yellow smog blankets everything. The air is suffocating, oppressive. The sheer scale of it has genuinely alarmed the city's residents. Organizations like the Soot Reduction Association and the Smog Reduction Association have formed purely out of necessity, desperate attempts to combat the choking haze. In fact, a national atmospheric pollution control bill is set to pass in November, aimed at finally reining in the environmental disaster unfolding here. So yes, Backlund offers endless opportunities, but the city's condition leaves much to be desired. Klein has already invested in a proper suit for himself, along with a gold pocket watch and matching gold chain, expenses that alone cost him £6. The man currently has no job, zero income. He's living off his savings, and they're dwindling fast with every purchase. Anyway, after arriving in Backlund, Klein steps off at the station. The moment his feet touch the platform, he senses someone attempting to pick his pocket. A pickpocket targeting a clown? The man's intuition is far too sharp for such crude tactics. Klein sidesteps effortlessly, evading the thief's hand, and walks away without incident. Klein can feel that his clown potion has digested considerably. Not completely, but enough that he's grasped its core essence. A clown is someone drowning in pain and suffering internally, yet outwardly they wear nothing but a smile. They spread joy to the world while their own heart bleeds in silence. That's the true nature of the clown potion, and that's how Klein must conduct himself. Remember how at the end of the first book, Klein visited Melissa and Benson, smiling brightly, performing the role perfectly? His potion digested significantly in that moment. This is the path forward, acting the part until it becomes second nature. Now, Klein spots an advertisement in the newspaper. In Cherwood Borough, there's a property available at 15 Minsk Street, a terrace house for rent. The weekly rate is listed at 18 solely. Klein considers it. That might work. Let's check it out. Backlund sprawls across a massive area, and Klein had carefully narrowed down which districts he could safely reside in. North Borough was immediately off the table. That's Nighthawk territory, home to St. Samuel Cathedral. Empress Borough and West Borough were equally unsuitable, dominated by wealthy nobles and heavy security presence. The working-class districts, Harbor, East Borough, the Bridge area, those were out as well. Too poor, too rough, too many desperate people packed together. After filtering through his options, only a handful of areas remained viable. Among them, Cherwood Borough seemed ideal. It sat comfortably far from any Nighthawk establishments in Backlund, and the neighborhood struck the right balance. Not too affluent, not too destitute, perfectly middle class. A place where he could blend in without drawing attention. To reach Cherwood Borough, Klein boards the metro. Yes, Backlund has a metro system, though it's not what you might imagine. This subway runs entirely on steam engines. The pricing is straightforward. First class costs 6 pence, second class 4 pence, and third class 3 pence. First and second class guarantee you a designated seat. Third class offers no such luxury. It's standing room and chaos. Annual passes are also available. First class runs £8, second class sits at £5.10 solely, and third class doesn't offer an annual option at all. Klein quickly purchases a second class ticket, finds his seat, and settles in. As the train moves, his gaze drifts across the cityscape, visible through the windows. The pollution truly is staggering. Then something catches his attention. A boy, couldn't be older than 15, comes sprinting into the carriage, breathing hard. He quickly apologizes to the other passengers. "Sorry, wrong carriage. I'm third class," he mutters, flashing his ticket before turning to leave. Moments later, several men in black coats come rushing in, clearly pursuing the boy. The teenager manages to slip past them and vanish back the way he came. The men shout questions at the other passengers as they chase after him, their urgency palpable. Klein studies one of the men carefully. His features stand out, sharp, weathered, distinctly different from the average low-end citizen. A Highlander, most likely. For those unfamiliar, Highlanders originate from a specific region, the territory stretching between the northern continent and the edge of the Hornasis mountain range. The people there are known for being tall, physically strong, and hardened by harsh conditions. Anyway, Klein remains seated as the commotion unfolds. The boy manages to evade the black-coated men and, surprisingly, returns to the carriage again moments later, only to bolt once more. But before the boy disappears entirely, Klein activates his spirit vision and takes a quick look. What he sees is telling. Yes, the boy is terrified. The emotional colors radiating from him confirm that much. But beneath the fear, his thoughts remain remarkably calm and focused. For a 15-year-old kid to maintain such composure in such a high-pressure situation, that's unusual. There's definitely something more to this boy. Anyway, Klein arrives at Sherwood Street and makes his way to 15 Minsk Street. He rings the bell, and moments later, a maid appears at the door. She asks who he's looking for, and Klein explains that he saw the rental advertisement and would like to inquire about the available apartment. The listing was under the name Stellan Sammer, so he requests to speak with them. The maid asks for his name. Klein pauses briefly before answering. Sherlock Moriarty. It's a deliberate choice, combining the famous detective Sherlock Holmes with his notorious adversary Moriarty into a single identity. A fitting name for the new life he's building. From this point forward, Klein will be known as Sherlock Moriarty throughout this volume. Though for familiarity's sake, we'll still call him Klein. Mrs. Sammer emerges to meet with him. Klein explains that he's newly arrived in the city and currently searching for employment. Mrs. Sammer tells him a bit about her husband. He works in industry and is also involved with the Soot Reduction Association. She kindly offers Klein tea as they talk, and Klein expresses interest in renting Unit 15. Mrs. Sammer asks if he has any identification papers. Klein admits he doesn't. He came to Backlund in a hurry and wasn't able to prepare proper documentation. However, he assures her he can pay the rent without issue. He's a respectable man, educated in history, well-spoken. His refined grammar and manner of speaking should speak for themselves. Mrs. Sammer seems genuinely impressed by Klein's demeanor and decides to overlook the lack of identification. The rent is set at 18 soldi per week, plus an additional 1 soldi for furnished accommodations, 19 soldi total. However, she requires an upfront deposit of 1 year's rent, £50. That's far too steep. Klein negotiates, suggesting 6 months instead, £25. Mrs. Sammer agrees. Klein produces the money without hesitation, and the arrangement is finalized. As they conclude their business, Mrs. Sammer offers some practical advice. If Klein wants to survive comfortably in Backlund, he should aim for a job paying at least £3 weekly. If he can manage to earn £8 to £9, he could even afford to hire household help. Klein thinks to himself with bitter irony. He was earning far more than that as a Nighthawk, £10 per week. But circumstances forced him into hiding, and now here he is, starting from scratch. At that moment, Mrs. Sammer's husband, Luke Sammer, arrives home. He greets Klein warmly and they chat briefly. Klein gets the impression that the Sammers are good people, though they do enjoy showing off their success a bit. Luke mentions almost immediately that he earns 430 gold pounds annually, roughly £8 per week. After the conversation wraps up, the maid, whose name is Julian, leads Klein to his new unit. It's a modest 1-bedroom apartment, but everything is clean and well maintained. Klein is satisfied. Now settled, Klein considers his next steps. He can't simply rely on Audrey's financial support indefinitely. He needs legitimate income. But what kind of work? Becoming an author crosses his mind first, but he dismisses it quickly. If he gained any fame, it would draw unwanted attention. The Nighthawks would eventually find him. A news reporter? No, that would consume all his time and leave no room for his real work. Then it hits him. Private detective. Perfect. The work is flexible, discreet, and allows him to operate independently while still investigating matters that interest him. Klein acts immediately. He approaches a local publication called the Backlund Bulletin. Not the most prestigious newspaper, but it circulates well throughout the area. He purchases a month-long advertisement for £30. The ad is straightforward yet enticing. Sherlock Moriarty, private detective, residing at 15 Minsk Street, Unit 15. All matters handled with complete confidentiality. Problem solved. It's flashy enough to attract clients, which is exactly what he needs. After all, money won't earn itself. For reference, Klein initially had £300 deposited by Audrey. He kept £100 in the bank and withdrew £200. Of that £200, he's already spent £108. Only £92 remain. Now, today is Monday, which means the Tarot Club meeting is scheduled. Klein retreats above the gray fog and prepares to summon the members. He reaches out to the Sun as well, though Sun must be notified in advance before being pulled into the meeting. Time doesn't function normally in that space. Meanwhile, in the City of Silver, Derek, our Sun, has recently joined a patrol squad. His team recently encountered a terrifying monster covered entirely in eyes, nothing else. The creature was incredibly powerful. Though they managed to defeat it, the battle left 5 to 7 people injured before the monster finally fell. Derek is currently resting by a bonfire when the notification appears before him. The Tarot Club meeting is about to begin. He glances around nervously. There are people everywhere. How is he supposed to slip away unnoticed? Then it occurs to him, he doesn't need to leave physically. The meeting only takes his consciousness. His body will remain exactly where it is. So Derek simply lies down, closes his eyes, and pretends to sleep. To everyone around him, he's just resting. His soul, however, ascends to the meeting above the gray fog. So yes, the meeting begins, and Alger immediately shares excellent news. He's obtained 19 pages of Emperor Roselle's diary. However, since Alger can only memorize 6 pages at a time, he's brought those 6 to present first. Klein won't need to compensate him for these pages. The assistance Klein provided during the Kalangos incident, specifically dealing with the Blessed, was significant enough that Alger considers this an even exchange. The members express their gratitude to the fool, Klein, for resolving the Kalangos situation. Klein reflects inwardly on how useful Mr. Azek proved to be during that ordeal, though he acknowledges that maintaining frequent contact with Azek isn't feasible right now. Perhaps later, but not yet. Klein begins reading through the diary entries. In these pages, Roselle discusses someone called Mr. Dorr. This mysterious figure approached Roselle with details about an elaborate and complicated ritual. Mr. Dorr promised that if Roselle successfully completed this ritual, he would grant 3 of Roselle's requests in return. But Roselle wasn't foolish. He recognized immediately that Mr. Dorr was attempting to manipulate him into performing a dangerous ritual, one likely designed to summon an evil god or similarly malevolent entity. Roselle was far too intelligent to fall for such a scheme. After all, this is the man responsible for countless inventions in this world. He wasn't about to be deceived so easily. The question remains, who exactly is Mr. Dorr? Klein will learn more about him as time goes on, though the full truth won't be revealed just yet. What Mr. Dorr did share with Roselle, however, was critical historical information about the Fourth Epoch. During that era, a catastrophic conflict erupted, the War of the Four Emperors. These 4 rulers were the Black Emperor of the Solomon Empire, the half-insane Blood Emperor of the Tudor Empire, the Night Emperor of the Trun-Soist Empire, and the Emperor of the Underworld from the Southern Continent, also known as Death. This war reshaped the entire world. The Black Emperor, Blood Emperor, and Night Emperor all fell in succession, but the one who profited most from the chaos was the Emperor of the Underworld. After consolidating power and absorbing everything over the course of 100 years, Death descended into madness. Yet despite, or perhaps because of, this insanity, his strength grew immensely. Death, alongside the primordial demons, unleashed a pale disaster upon the northern continent. During the Fourth Epoch, deities walked freely on Earth, manifesting directly in the world. In the current Fifth Epoch, this no longer occurs. The diary also references 2 fundamental laws governing Beyonder characteristics. The first is the law of Beyonder characteristic indestructibility, which Klein already knows. When a Beyonder dies, their power doesn't vanish. It persists. It can transform into a sealed artifact, condense into a Beyonder characteristic, or be used to create a new potion. The power itself is eternal. The second is the law of similar sequence Beyonder characteristics conservation. This law is straightforward. Within any given pathway, if the number of high-sequence Beyonders increases, the number of low-sequence Beyonders decreases proportionally. Conversely, if low sequence beyonders increase, high sequence ones must decrease. It's a principle of balance. Though Klein doesn't fully grasp the deeper implications yet, this law will prove increasingly important as the story unfolds. Klein wonders about Mr. Door's identity. Could his name appear somewhere in Fourth Epoch records? It's worth investigating. Elsewhere in the diary, Roselle expresses regret over choosing the Savant pathway. The lower sequences of this path offer virtually no combat capability. Sequence 9, the Savant, grants enhanced memory, learning ability, and practical skills, useful but hardly powerful. Sequence 8, the Archaeologist, provides a slightly stronger physique, though its primary benefit is increased access to ancient knowledge and basic ritualistic magic. Sequence 7 is the Appraiser, who can instantly identify mystical objects and sense hidden dangers to some degree. Sequence 6, the Artisan, can create mechanical wonders. Impressive inventions certainly, but not particularly powerful beyonder items. Ritual magic proficiency improves as well. The modern name for this sequence is Machinery Specialist. Roselle notes that in comparison, the Mystery Prior pathway seems far more appealing. Its Sequence 7, the Warlock, and Sequence 6, the Scroll Professor, possess abilities that feel much more tempting. He muses that things would be easier if knowledge of that pathway remained exclusively with the Church, and if the Hidden Sage didn't exist. Still, there's hope. Once Roselle reaches Sequence 5, the Astronomer, he'll finally gain combat abilities. The modern name for this sequence is still Astronomer. Roselle wonders aloud in his diary, will advancing to Sequence 5 turn him into some kind of mad scientist? Brilliant beyond measure, but unhinged? The diary shifts to discussions of war. The Physac Empire, the Finapotter Kingdom, the Loan Kingdom. Roselle has waged battles against all of them at various points. His strategy is clear. Allow the rebel factions to tear each other apart first, then emerge as the protector and savior. From there, he could position himself as Consul Roselle Gustav. He attempted to forge some kind of alliance or agreement with the Church of the Eternal Blazing Sun, but negotiations proved unsuccessful. Roselle also writes about how Grimm perished in the sea fog, lamenting that Grimm was the smartest among them all. He notes that the Church of the Eternal Blazing Sun will only reluctantly acknowledge him once the Sauron family becomes incapable of maintaining control over the situation. Roselle considers a calculated move. Should he secretly aid the rebels just enough to destabilize the situation further? That way, when chaos reaches its peak, he can step in as the hero and claim the position of consul. The diary reveals the intricate political maneuvering of that era, schemes within schemes, all carefully calculated. Reading through all of this, Klein reflects on his own historical knowledge. He studied history extensively, and the records were quite clear. In 1173, Roselle, then a colonel, crushed a major rebellion and triggered sweeping political changes. During that period, the Intis Kingdom transformed into a republic, and Roselle appointed himself as consul. His plan had succeeded, just as he had outlined in the diary. Roughly 20 years later, in 1192, Roselle converted the republic into an empire and declared himself Caesar. Then, 6 years after that transformation, Emperor Roselle's reign came to an end, but the circumstances surrounding his death are shrouded in mystery. It's clearly not as straightforward as the official accounts suggest. Returning to the diary, Klein reads another entry where Roselle mentions that Zeratul suddenly appeared to meet with him. Something urgent had occurred, though the specific details aren't recorded. Roselle writes with obvious frustration about Zeratul, describing how the leader of the secret order acts superior and constantly manipulates him, ordering him around as if he were some subordinate. Roselle decides he's had enough. He plans to plant a spy within the secret order to uncover Zeratul's true intentions. He refuses to be controlled like this any longer. With that, the diary entries conclude. There were 1 or 2 additional pages among the 6, but their contents aren't particularly significant, so Klein moves on. After finishing, Klein addresses the gathered members above the gray fog. Today's diary contains some valuable information. I believe it would be beneficial to share certain general knowledge with all of you. Audrey immediately perks up with excitement. The fool is going to teach them something. He's practically a deity in her eyes, and any knowledge he imparts will surely prove invaluable. The first piece of knowledge Klein shares is the law of Beyonder characteristic indestructibility, the principle that when Beyonders die, their characteristics persist and can be extracted. Sun and Alger already knew this, but it's entirely new information for Audrey. Then Klein introduces the second law, the law of similar sequence Beyonder characteristics conservation. Both Alger and Derek visibly react with surprise. What is this? They've never heard of such a thing. Klein notices their confusion immediately. None of the three know about this law. He pauses deliberately. I can explain this general knowledge to you, but what will you offer in return? Alger responds carefully. What payment do you require? Whatever you ask for, we'll do our best to provide. Klein's answer is measured. I'll share this knowledge with you. In exchange, gather any information you can about the secret order and bring it to me. Alger agrees without hesitation. Audrey and Sun also consent, though realistically, neither of them will be able to contribute much. Sun is isolated in the City of Silver, far removed from any relevant networks. Audrey, while well-connected among nobility and high society, has no ties to secretive mystical organizations. If the topic involved aristocratic politics or upper-class matters, she'd be invaluable, but not for this. Klein doesn't explain everything in exhaustive detail, but he does clarify the concept of similar sequences, pathways that can be interchanged at higher levels. He had mentioned this before. When you reach sequence 5, certain pathways allow you to transition into sequence 4 of a different but compatible pathway. For example, the death pathway's sequence 5 is Gatekeeper. A Gatekeeper can advance normally within the death pathway, but they also have the option to switch to sequence 4 Demon Hunter of the giant pathway. Making this transition won't cause loss of control, provided you only switch between similar, compatible pathways. If you attempted something reckless, like jumping from Seer directly to Nightmare in an incompatible pathway, you'd lose control immediately and face catastrophic consequences. Caution is absolutely essential. Hearing this, Audrey immediately asks, which pathways are similar to the spectator pathway? When I reach sequence 5, where will I be able to advance? Klein responds calmly, when you reach sequence 5, Miss Justice, we'll discuss those options in detail. There's no need to settle that transaction now. The conversation shifts as Alger addresses Audrey. Miss Justice, I've obtained the pituitary gland of the rainbow salamander that you requested. However, how should I deliver it to you? It's a valid concern. Audrey obviously won't want to reveal her physical address. Klein sees an opportunity and decides to propose an experiment. The Sun told us about the sacrificial rituals practiced in his city, correct? Let's attempt something similar. You can sacrifice items to me using a ritual. He explains the process: prepare a modest altar, use his symbol, the pupilless eye, and recite a brief chant. Then offer the item. Theoretically, it should reach him above the gray fog, and from there he can transfer it to the intended recipient. He cautions them that this is experimental and may not work perfectly on the first attempt. The plan is that after this meeting concludes, Alger will offer the pituitary gland to the Fool through the sacrificial ritual, and the Fool will then bestow it upon Audrey. If successful, this would create a secure method for transactions, allowing them to exchange items safely without revealing their identities or locations. Klein feels confident in his design. The sacrificial ritual should generate an illusory gate-like structure above the gray fog, similar to the Door of Summoning. The only limitation is his own strength. He can't create a fully stable channel on his own, but by leveraging the unique properties of the mysterious space above the gray fog, he can compensate for that weakness and complete the transfer. So the plan is set. Sacrificial rituals to send items, bestowment rituals to receive them. Klein is already certain this will work, though the others won't know that until they test it after the meeting concludes. Audrey speaks up during the meeting. I've met 2 women. Their names are Zio and Force. They're both quite capable, and I believe they would be valuable additions to the Tarot Club. Klein responds carefully. You can't simply add members without proper vetting. There will be a test first. Deliver my honorific name to them. The Fool who doesn't belong to this era, but do so subtly. Don't reveal that you're the one delivering it, and don't mention the Tarot Club's existence. I will observe them and determine whether they're worthy of joining. Alger's thoughts darken with suspicion. Is Audrey recruiting more members from her faction? Is she trying to build a stronger team to outweigh his influence? The political implications aren't lost on him. With that settled, the meeting concludes. As soon as everyone departs, Alger performs the sacrificial ritual as instructed. The pituitary gland of the rainbow salamander vanishes from his possession and materializes above the gray fog, reaching Klein successfully. Then Audrey performs the bestowment ritual, and Klein transfers the ingredient to her seamlessly. The experiment is a complete success. From now on, item transactions can be conducted safely through the gray fog, with Klein acting as the intermediary. Audrey now has everything she needs. Her potion formula was already complete. This final ingredient was all that remained. She's currently Sequence 9, a spectator. With this, she can advance to Sequence 8, telepathist. She prepares the potion carefully, adds the pituitary gland, and drinks it without hesitation. The moment the potion enters her system, her mind reels. It's disorienting, overwhelming. Sensations twist and distort, but she's prepared for this. Through focused cogitation, she steadies herself, calming the chaos until clarity returns. She's successfully advanced. Audrey is now a Sequence 8 telepathist. Meanwhile, Susie, her dog, stares at her with an almost accusatory expression as if to say, "You made a potion, advanced to Sequence 8, and didn't share any with me?" After the Tarot Club meeting concludes, Klein returns to reality, rests, and then before dinner, another thought occurs to him. He's secured a decent house in Sherwood Borough, but the city is vast, and his work will take him all over. It would be wise to have a secondary location, somewhere cheap and inconspicuous in a rougher part of town. He heads to East Borough, one of the poorest districts, and rents a small one-bedroom place. The rent is only 4 soldi and 3 pence per week. He pays 2 weeks upfront as a deposit, 17 soldi total. Now, Klein has 2 residences, one in Sherwood Borough, respectable and safe, and one in East Borough, a grimy area riddled with crime and poverty. Both serve their purpose. The next day arrives, Tuesday. No work. Wednesday passes the same way. During these 2 quiet days, Klein occupies himself by crafting charms. He no longer has the luxury of free materials provided by the Nighthawks. Everything must come out of his own pocket now, but having charms prepared is essential. If danger strikes, he needs to be ready. Finally, on Thursday, someone knocks on Klein's door. His first client has arrived. A senior solicitor named Jurgen Cooper stands at the entrance, accompanied by his grandmother, Mrs. Doris. Their black cat, Brody, has gone missing. This is the case. Klein feels a twinge of disappointment. I became a detective, and my first job is finding a lost cat, but the payment is 5 soldi, which is decent enough. He accepts. Jurgen explains that he only came to Klein because their homes are close to each other. He saw the advertisement in the local paper and decided to try. Klein thinks bitterly, so I wasn't even their first choice. They just picked me because I'm nearby. Still, work is work. Let's find the cat. Klein visits their home, where Mrs. Doris insists on feeding him. "Eat this, dear. Have some more." Klein obliges politely. The food is good, at least. Once settled, Klein discreetly collects some of the cat's hair and performs a divination. He makes a show of appearing to conduct detective work, examining the room, noting details. But in reality, the divination reveals everything instantly. The cat hasn't disappeared at all. It's locked inside a cupboard. Klein opens the cupboard and Brody emerges, meowing indignantly. Jurgen Cooper is absolutely amazed. "You're an incredible detective. How did you figure that out so quickly?" Klein offers a casual explanation. Something about tracing footprints and behavioral patterns. Pure nonsense. He found it through divination, but they don't need to know that. He collects his 5 soldi and returns home, only to find someone already waiting outside. A second client on the same day? Things are looking up. The person waiting is a young boy, and Klein recognizes him immediately. This is the same kid he saw on the train when he first arrived in Backlund, the one being chased by men in black coats. The boy introduces himself as Ian Wright and asks, "Are you Sherlock Moriarty? I saw you on the train the other day." Klein is mildly surprised. This kid remembers me from a brief encounter on the train. He's sharper than he appears. Not a beyonder, but his observational skills are clearly exceptional. Ian wastes no time explaining why he's here. "I have a case. I used to work for a detective named Mr. Zriel Victor Lee. I was his assistant." Because Ian worked closely with Detective Zriel, he's learned a lot. He's clever, perceptive, and understands how investigations work. Ian continues, "One day, I felt like someone was following me. That was the same day you arrived in Backlund, the day you saw me on the train. That's why I was running." He managed to evade his pursuers and lose them in the crowd. But there's a problem. Since that day, Ian hasn't been able to contact Detective Zriel. He's tried their usual secret communication method, a system they established specifically for situations like this, but there's been no response. Growing worried, Ian visited several other detectives, colleagues of Zriel's who operate in the same professional circles, but every single one of them refused to take the case. They all claimed they had seen Zriel recently and that everything was fine. Ian doesn't believe them. Something feels deeply wrong. Klein considers the possibilities. Could someone have disguised themselves as Zriel, perhaps wearing a fake mustache and beard to fool people? Ian shakes his head. No. These are all experienced detectives with sharp eyes. If it were an imposter, they would have noticed immediately. Their observation skills are too refined to be fooled by a simple disguise, which means something else is happening. The case is straightforward enough. Ian needs Klein to find out where Zriel is. He's not at his home, and no one knows his whereabouts. More importantly, is Zriel even still alive? For this investigation, Ian hands over £5 upfront and promises to pay more later, depending on how much effort Klein invests. Klein wonders briefly where a kid like Ian managed to get £5, but he doesn't dwell on it. Money is money. Klein accepts the payment but tells Ian, "You're just a kid, so don't worry about paying me more than this. When the work is finished, I'll ask you to do 3 simple tasks for me. things you can easily handle. Help me with those and we'll call it even." Ian agrees without hesitation. Deal. A contract is now established between Sherlock Moriarty and Ian Wright. Klein's task is clear: locate Detective Zriel. Before leaving, Ian adds one more instruction. "I'll come to you myself when needed. Don't try to contact me." Once Ian departs, Klein immediately flips a coin to determine if there's any Beyonder involvement in this case. The coin falls ambiguously. The divination fails. Inconclusive. That night, Klein disguises himself with a fake beard and mustache, changes his clothing, and leaves his residence. His destination, Zriel's house. Before entering, Klein performs another divination. Is there danger inside the house? The pendulum rotates clockwise, but slowly, meaning there is danger, but it's manageable. Klein approaches the door and picks the lock effortlessly using a tarot card, thanks to his clown abilities. He always carries a full deck of tarot cards with him anyway. They double as weapons when thrown like knives, useful in more ways than one. Klein slips inside and activates his spirit vision. He scans through the walls. Spirit vision allows him to see through wood, though not metal. Inside the bedroom, he detects 3 figures standing guard. Without hesitation, Klein retrieves his slumber charm, whispers the activation word "Crimson," and throws it. All 3 guards collapse into unconsciousness instantly. Klein enters the bedroom and searches for something belonging to Zriel, specifically strands of hair. He needs them for divination. Once he finds what he needs, Klein performs dream divination and traces Zriel's location. The vision is grim. He sees Zriel's corpse submerged in sewage, the body partially consumed, lips and limbs gnawed away, likely by rats or other scavengers. Zriel is dead, and Klein now has a rough idea of where the body is located. Klein could leave at this point, but he decides to push further. With the 3 guards still unconscious, Klein begins a spirit medium ritual, something he learned from Daly. The process requires a mantha extract, the eye of spirit medium, and other materials. Klein came prepared. He sets everything up and performs the ritual. He contacts the spirit of one of the sleeping guards and asks directly, "Who sent you here to Zriel's house? Who ordered you to guard this bedroom?" The spirit responds, its voice hollow and detached. "A man named Murso. He's an executor for the Zmangja gang. Murso only takes orders from the boss, no one else." That's valuable information. Klein memorizes the name. The slumber charm's effect is beginning to fade. The guards will wake soon. Klein uses his clown agility to leap from the second-floor window, landing silently like a cat. He moves through the darkness with precise, soundless steps and vanishes into the night. His next destination, East Borough, somewhere within the sewers where Zriel's body lies. Klein navigates through the district, using divination to guide him toward the exact location. Eventually, he finds the right spot, removes the sewer lid, and descends into the filth below. There, submerged in the waste, he finds Zriel's corpse exactly as the divination showed. Klein immediately performs another divination. What caused Zriel's death? But the divination yields nothing. Someone has meticulously cleansed Zriel's spirit, spiritual interference at the Beyonder level, preventing any information from being extracted through divination. Suddenly, Klein hears sounds echoing through the tunnel. Thump, thump, thump. Footsteps. Someone is approaching. Klein doesn't wait to find out who. Before the situation escalates, he exits the sewer quickly and begins taking an erratic route home. He's a new detective in Backlund, which means he needs to be cautious about being followed. He takes wrong turns deliberately, doubles back, circles around entire blocks, standard counter-surveillance tactics to shake off anyone tailing him. Eventually, confident he's alone, Klein returns home and collapses into bed. The next morning, someone is already waiting at his door. Ian. The same kid who dragged Klein into this mess has returned. Klein doesn't waste time. Your detective Zriel is dead. His body is in the sewers. Klein takes Ian directly to the location and shows him the corpse. Something worth noting. Zriel's body has been further consumed since Klein last saw it. The damage is far more extensive than what rats could accomplish in a single night. There's something else down in those sewers. Klein doesn't know what yet, but he files the observation away. Klein tells Ian firmly, "My job is done. I'm not getting involved beyond this point. I strongly recommend you report this to the police. Tell them everything and then stay out of it yourself." As for the 3 tasks Ian owes him, Klein decides to collect on one of them immediately. "If I need an unlicensed gun and bullets, where can I get them?" Ian answers without hesitation. "Go to Iron Gate Street in the Backlund Bridge District. There's a place called the Brave Hearts Bar. Inside, you'll find a man named Casper's Calanine. Tell him Old Geezer sent you. He might be able to help." 1 task completed. 2 more remain, which Klein says they can discuss whenever they happen to cross paths again. With that, Klein leaves. After leaving the sewers, Klein doesn't go home immediately. Instead, he finds a concealed spot nearby and watches to see what Ian does next. After some time passes, Ian returns and goes back down into the sewage. Clearly, Ian is hiding something from Klein. Not just something small, probably a great deal. But Klein decides not to pursue it. Whatever Ian's involved in, it's gang-related, and Klein has no intention of tangling with criminal organizations. His part of the case is finished. Time to leave. The scene shifts to Audrey, who meets with Viscount Glaint. Zio and Fors are also present at his estate. Audrey hands them £800, payment for the information they provided during the Lanevis case. Zio and Fors are genuinely pleased. They'll split it evenly, £400 each. Viscount Glaint addresses Zio and Fors with a request. If you can locate the Sequence 9 apothecary formula for me, I'll pay you well. I'm determined to become an apothecary. Nothing else will do. Interestingly, neither Zio, Fors, nor Glaint are aware that Audrey has already become a Beyonder. In fact, she's not just started, she's already advanced to Sequence 8, skipping past the typical progression. They all still believe she's an ordinary person. Zio and Fors browse through Glaint's personal library and borrow a few books that catch their interest. Historical texts mostly. While they're distracted, Audrey discreetly slips a small piece of paper inside one of Zio's books. Written on it is the fool's honorific name, the fool who doesn't belong to this era, and the full chant. Audrey's plan is simple. If Zio happens to read it aloud, she'll establish a connection with the gray fog, and Klein can observe her, essentially conducting an examination to determine if she's worthy of joining the Tarot Club. That evening, Zio settles in to read the borrowed book. She discovers the note tucked inside. It's written in Hermes, the ancient mystical language. The text reads, "The fool who doesn't belong to this era, the emperor of," and continues with the complete honorific. Zio reads it aloud instinctively. Immediately panic sets in. This could be the chant of an evil god. If she's accidentally attracted the attention of some malevolent entity, her life could be over. Fear grips her completely. Meanwhile, Klein is at home reading the newspaper when something catches his eye, an advertisement for an investment opportunity. A scientist is developing some kind of new transportation device and is seeking funding. Klein considers it thoughtfully. He has £100 sitting in the bank doing nothing. Why not invest? If the device turns out to be something practical, a bicycle perhaps, or some kind of personal vehicle, it could be profitable. Bicycles don't exist in this world yet, and they'd sell extremely well. Klein decides to invest the £100. At that moment, Klein hears a prayer, faint but unmistakable. It's Zio. Klein ascends above the gray fog and observes her from that mysterious space. Back in the real world, Zio is terrified. Fors arrives at her house, and Zio immediately confesses everything. "I prayed to someone by accident. What if it's an evil god? What if I've doomed myself?" Fors tries to calm her down. "Listen, if something was going to happen, it would have happened already. And if you really did attract an evil god's attention, we'll know by tonight. Something will definitely occur. So let's not rush to the church just yet. Wait until tonight. If something bad happens to you, then we'll go get an exorcism performed, whatever it takes to drive out any evil spirit or god that might have latched onto you." Reluctantly, Zio agrees. That night, she tries to sleep, though anxiety gnaws at her. In the middle of the night, Klein wakes up with an idea. He could pull Zio into the gray fog, just for a single second. She's asleep, so she won't fully comprehend what's happening. She'll think it was just a dream. Let's see how this works. Klein ascends above the gray fog and pulls Zio's consciousness into the space for exactly 1 second. Before her sleep breaks completely, she catches a fleeting glimpse, someone sitting in the fog, shrouded and distant. Then, just as quickly, Klein severs the connection and sends her back. Zio jolts awake in bed, heart pounding. She's certain now. She saw an evil god in her dream. She needs an exorcism, a purification ritual. Whatever entity she's attracted needs to be expelled before it's too late. Klein, observing from above the gray fog, learns something important through this experiment. When he pulled Zio into the space, her spirituality began dispersing rapidly. She barely managed to hold herself together. This reveals Klein's current limitations. His power at Sequence 8 restricts how many people he can pull into the gray fog, and he can only bring in Beyonders one sequence above his own, no higher. These are hard limits for now. Zio decides she'll attend the next Beyonder gathering hosted by Mr. A. She'll write a notice on the board offering £20 to £30 to anyone who can perform a purification ritual on her. Surely someone there will know how. The next morning, Klein wakes to a knock on his door. Before answering, he performs a quick divination to check who's outside. Once he confirms their identity, he opens the door. Standing there is Murso. Yes, the same Murso, the executor for the Zmanger gang, the man who sent the guards to Zriel's house. Murso looks furious. "Are you Sherlock Moriarty?" Klein replies calmly, "Yes, I'm a detective." Murso wastes no time. "I have a job for you. I'll pay you 30 pounds. No, 50 pounds. Just find Ian Wright for me." Ian Wright, the kid. Klein immediately decides absolutely not, he won't betray the boy. "Ian Wright's information is confidential," Klein says evenly. "I can't give you that, and I don't know where he is." Murso's expression darkens. He leans in, voice tight with anger. "Look, you need to do this. Take the 50 pounds and find him." Klein doesn't waver. "No, I won't." Murso glares at him for a long, tense moment. Then, seething with rage, he turns and storms off. After Murso leaves, Klein decides to visit Mr. Leopard, the inventor seeking investment for his transportation device. Klein wants to see the invention firsthand before committing any money. When he arrives, Mr. Leopard is cautious. "Before I show you anything, you need to sign a non-disclosure agreement." Klein agrees and signs the NDA. Only then does Leopard reveal his creation. A vehicle that resembles a rickshaw, 4 wheels, designed to be pulled by a person sitting and pedaling. Leopard explains that he based the design on concepts found in Emperor Rosel's manuscripts. Klein examines it thoughtfully, but raises a concern. If this runs entirely on human strength, it won't be able to carry more than 4 people. Why not create something individuals can operate themselves? Wealthy people won't use it, but workers, postmen, and lower-class citizens absolutely would. Leopard looks confused. "What are you suggesting?" Klein describes the concept clearly. "A bicycle, 2 wheels, pedals, handlebars. You could call it a bike." Leopard's eyes light up. "Bike. I like that name. All right, I'll build it. So, will you invest?" Klein nods. "Yes, I'll invest 100 pounds, but first, we need a formal agreement. How much equity will I receive for that investment?" Klein mentally calculates, "I'll ask for 15% and settle for 10%. Before he can speak, Leopard answers, "I'll give you 35%. Klein nearly laughs in disbelief. "Deal!" So it's settled. Klein invests 100 pounds. Mr. Leopard builds the bicycle, and Klein owns 35% of the company. If bicycles take off and sell well, Klein could become quite wealthy from this investment alone. Of course, a proper contract needs to be drafted first. Klein says he'll have one prepared and return later to finalize everything. Klein returns home feeling satisfied. He washes his face at the basin, and suddenly, his clown intuition screams a warning, "Move!" Klein reacts instantly, shifting to the side. In the mirror's reflection, he catches a glimpse of someone behind him. A black feathered dart, an arrow, streaks past and shatters the mirror. Klein spins around. A tall, broad man has entered his home and is already attacking. Punches come in rapid succession. Fast, brutal, powerful. This isn't a normal person. He's absolutely a beyonder. The man's speed is overwhelming. Klein can barely react, forced into a defensive posture, blocking strikes as best he can. Even blocking them, his arms go numb from the sheer force behind each blow. Klein recognizes him immediately. Murso came to kill him, and now Klein is fighting for his life. Klein quickly assesses the situation. In terms of raw speed and strength, I can't match him. I'll have to outsmart him. One thing is certain. Murso isn't a high-sequence beyonder. He's relatively low on the ladder. But whatever sequence he belongs to, it's combat-oriented and brutally effective in close quarters. Klein deliberately takes a few hits and staggers backward, positioning himself behind a table. On the table lies a steel template he had brought home for drafting contracts. Klein palms it discreetly, pretending to be injured and struggling to get up. Murso grows overconfident. He approaches casually, ready to land the finishing blow. The moment Murso steps within range and winds up for the final punch, Klein strikes. He drives the steel template straight into Murso's throat, tearing open his windpipe. Murso collapses, dead before he hits the floor. Never underestimate your opponent. Even when you're winning, stay vigilant. Klein defeated Murso not through strength, but through cunning. Now, despite being battered and in considerable pain, Klein forces himself to laugh. A deliberate, exaggerated clown's laugh. This is how the potion digests. He must act the part, even now. A clown laughs at everything, no matter how dire the situation. Klein glances around at the wreckage, broken furniture, shattered mirror, overturned chairs. He thinks bitterly, who's going to reimburse me for all this damage? The Nighthawks won't. I'm not one of them anymore, and most of them are dead anyway. What a sad situation. But he laughs anyway, forcing the role. Being a clown is exhausting. Klein wastes no time. He immediately performs dream divination to find out who sent Murso to kill him. The vision reveals a middle-aged man of average build speaking to Murso. "I want Ian Wright, dead or alive." Murso addresses the man as Mr. Ambassador. Ambassador, that title has significant implications. An ambassador maintains diplomatic relationships between nations. This means Ian's case isn't just some local gang dispute. It has international connections. What Klein thought was a simple 5-pound job has spiraled into something far more dangerous. Klein performs another divination. Why are these people hunting Ian? What's the real reason? But Murso didn't know the answer. In the vision, Klein sees Murso asking the ambassador the same question, only to be told curtly, "Do the work you're given. Don't ask unnecessary questions." After completing the divination, Klein notices something emerging from Murso's corpse, a Beyonder characteristic, appearing as a dark red, jelly-like substance. Klein picks it up carefully and considers his next move. But there's a more pressing problem. His home is a disaster. Furniture is destroyed. Blood is splattered across multiple surfaces. If any Beyonder investigator arrives and examines the scene, Klein's cover will be blown immediately. Klein acts quickly. He gathers everything that could raise suspicion, anything that might indicate Beyonder involvement. The characteristic from Murso, his self-made charms, tarot cards, the blood-stained contract template, all the papers he used for divination, everything. He performs the sacrificial ritual and throws it all above the gray fog. Items stored in the gray fog can't be divined. They're completely untraceable. The gray fog is Klein's ultimate safety net, his most reliable defense. There's actually solid reasoning behind why it functions this way, but that explanation comes much later in the story. For now, it's enough to know the gray fog protects him. Klein stares at Murso's corpse lying in his room. He needs to decide what to do. 3 options present themselves. Option 1, abandon everything and flee the city immediately. No, that's reckless and unsustainable. Option 2, wait until nightfall and dispose of Murso's body discreetly. This could work, but whoever sent Murso, likely Mr. Ambassador, will send more people, stronger people. Running won't solve the problem. Option 3, involve the police. This option carries significant risk. If the case somehow reaches the Nighthawks, Klein's identity could be exposed and everything falls apart. But Klein considers the situation carefully. The area he's living in doesn't fall under heavy Nighthawk jurisdiction. It's controlled by a different church's influence. The case should stay contained within that church's authority. And besides, Klein can control the narrative if he's careful. Klein performs a divination. Will involving the police bring danger? The answer is no. Decision made. Klein will report it to the authorities. But first, he waits. He waits for a full hour, because a spirit lingers for 1 hour after death before dissipating completely. Once that time passes, no divination can be performed on the deceased. Even if a diviner from the police department investigates, they won't be able to determine whether Murso was a Beyonder or an ordinary person. After the hour expires, Klein steps outside and finds 2 constables patrolling the street at night. He approaches them calmly. "Officers, I was attacked in my home. I defended myself and killed the assailant. Please, you need to come and see." The constables follow him immediately. When they enter Klein's apartment and see the corpse, they spring into action. They take Klein into custody and escort him to the police station for questioning. At the station, Klein is thoroughly interrogated. He tells them everything. Well, almost everything. He describes the entire sequence of events from the beginning. Ian's case, finding Detective Zriel's body, Murso's threats, and finally the attack. He admits to using divination to track Murso's movements. Of course, he doesn't mention the gray fog or any mystical rituals. He simply claims he followed Murso and saw him meeting with someone called Mr. Ambassador. Klein even offers to identify the man if they show him photographs. The police take the case seriously. The involvement of Mr. Ambassador and the Zemanger gang elevates this beyond a simple self-defense incident. They inform Klein he'll need to remain for further questioning. Then one of the officers asks a routine but crucial question. "What is your faith? Which god do you believe in?" Klein answers without hesitation. "The god of steam and machinery." A calculated response. By claiming allegiance to the Church of Steam and Machinery, he ensures the Nighthawks, who serve the goddess of Evernight, won't become involved. Smart move. Meanwhile, at Mr. A's Beyonder gathering, a Sequence 8 Sheriff Potion is being sold for £450. This is the next step in the Arbiter pathway, the path Sio follows. She's currently Sequence 9, an Arbiter, and needs this potion to advance. Shio had £150 saved from before, and Audrey just gave her 400. That's £550 total. She can afford it. Shio purchases the Sheriff Potion without hesitation. Afterward, Zio posts a notice on the board, 30 pounds to anyone who can perform a purification ritual on me. A masked man approaches, a believer of the sun, likely from the sun pathway. He performs a ritual, and Zio feels a comforting warmth spreading through her. The man speaks calmly. Whatever spirit or entity attached itself to you has been driven away. If it's still present, then it's something far more powerful than I can handle. Zio feels relieved. The warmth lingers, reassuring her that the ritual worked. Interestingly, at the exact moment the purification ritual is being performed on Zio, Klein, sitting in the cold police station, suddenly feels warmth wash over him. It's subtle but unmistakable. Klein chuckles quietly to himself. Nice feeling. He knows instinctively that this warmth is connected to the gray fog somehow. He'll investigate the cause later. For now, he needs to focus on dealing with the police. Klein is escorted into the interrogation room, and a police officer enters to question him. The moment the man steps inside, Klein feels it, an overwhelming pressure bearing down on him, as if invisible whips are lashing across his mind. The pain is intense, making it almost impossible to think clearly, let alone lie. The officer is a Beyonder, that much is obvious. Fortunately, Klein is also a Beyonder and recognizes this interrogation technique for what it is. He can resist it, barely, but even with his experience, it's grueling. Not that Klein was planning to lie anyway. He tells the truth, or most of it. He recounts everything, taking Ian's case, discovering Detective Zrial's corpse, uncovering Meursault's involvement, Meursault's threats, and subsequent attack. He emphasizes that he followed Meursault and witnessed him meeting with someone called Mr. Ambassador, who controls the Zemanger gang. What Klein omits are the critical details, the gray fog, his real identity, and the fact that he's a Beyonder himself. Those secrets remain buried. The interrogator shows Klein a series of photographs. Which of these men is the ambassador? Klein studies them and points without hesitation. That one. He had seen the man's face clearly during his divination. The interrogation concludes. The officer announces, "He's telling the truth. No deception detected." The police seem satisfied. Klein is a private detective, Sherlock Moriarty, and private detectives getting tangled up in dangerous cases isn't unusual. The interrogator addresses Klein directly. "You're free to go. Fill out the necessary paperwork, post bail, and you can leave." Klein's bail is handled by Jürgen Cooper, the solicitor who hired him to find his grandmother's missing cat. Klein is released from the Cherub police station with Jürgen's assistance. The bail costs £10, though Klein will be reimbursed once the case officially closes. Jürgen waives off any additional fees. "You're a detective. You'll need legal help regularly. Consider this first consultation free. We'll be seeing each other often. Detectives and police stations go hand in hand." Klein and Jürgen leave together in a carriage, since they live in the same general area. During the ride, Klein brings up another matter. "You're a solicitor. Can you draft a contract for me?" Jürgen looks interested. "What kind of contract?" Klein explains his meeting with Mr. Leopard and the bicycle invention, the transportation device they're developing together. He outlines what needs to be included in the agreement. Jürgen nods thoughtfully. "I'll have it ready by Monday morning. The cost will be £2. They finalize the arrangement, and Klein finally returns home. As soon as he arrives, the maid, Julian, intercepts him. "Mr. and Mrs. Sammer would like to see you." Klein's heart sinks. His landlords. They must have heard about the fight, the broken furniture, the violence. They're going to evict me. But to Klein's surprise, Mr. and Mrs. Sammer are remarkably calm. Klein offers a vague explanation. "I don't know who broke in. Some thief or robber, I think. I fought him off and managed to kill him somehow. I was lucky." Luke Sammer actually seems impressed. "Sounds like you can handle yourself in a fight, Klein." "That's reassuring, honestly. Just replace or reimburse us for the damaged furniture." Klein agrees immediately. "Of course, I'll take care of it." Crisis averted, Klein isn't being thrown out. With that resolved, Klein realizes the night isn't over yet. He decides to visit the Brave Hearts bar, the location Ian mentioned where he could acquire an unlicensed gun. Klein needs a weapon now. More importantly, he needs to hire a bodyguard. Why does he need a bodyguard? The reason will become clear soon enough. Meanwhile, Zio's purification ritual has concluded. She feels relieved, confident that no evil god will trouble her anymore. She turns her attention to the sheriff formula she just purchased, studying it carefully. Then, Mr. A's attendant summons her. Zio is led to a secluded area where a man wearing a golden mask meets with her privately. The masked man speaks directly. "You purchased the sheriff formula, but you'll need ingredients to prepare the potion. Those ingredients are expensive. I'm the one who sold you the formula. If you need help acquiring materials, I can offer you work. Small tasks. In exchange, I'll provide either money or ingredients, whichever you prefer." He pauses, his tone sharpening. One more thing. If you're thinking about buying formulas here and reselling them outside for profit, you can try. But I strongly advise against it. If you cross us, you'll be marked, and we will hunt you down. The message is clear. Mr. A's organization will offer Shio ongoing missions, small assignments she can accept or decline as she sees fit. In return, she'll earn money or receive potion ingredients directly. Shio considers the arrangement. She's being given a choice. Take the work if she wants it, refuse if she doesn't. There's flexibility here, and she needs the resources. I'm ready, Shio says. I'll accept your offers. Meanwhile, Klein arrives at the Brave Hearts bar. The place is lively. Dog-rat fights are taking place in one corner, just like the ones he saw back in Tingen, and boxing matches are happening elsewhere. Klein ignores the entertainment, orders a beer, and approaches the bartender. I need to speak with Kasper's Kalinine. The bartender gestures toward the back. Billiard room 3. You'll find him there. Klein enters the room and immediately feels every pair of eyes turn toward him. The atmosphere grows tense. Klein speaks quickly. I need to meet Kasper's. Old geezer sent me. The tension dissipates. A man around 50 years old steps forward. I'm Kasper's. What do you need? Klein states his requirements plainly. A revolver and 50 bullets. Kasper's nods. I can arrange that. 3 pounds 10 solely. It's expensive, but Klein expected as much. Unlicensed weapons always cost more. Klein continues. I also need to hire a bodyguard, specifically someone whose abilities exceed normal human limits. He emphasizes the last part deliberately. Kasper's understands immediately. People like that are available, but I'll need to check if anyone's willing to take the job. Wait here. Kasper's disappears for a few minutes, then returns. There's someone. He's willing to meet you. Klein is led to a dimly lit room where 10 people are seated around a table playing cards. Klein observes them carefully and immediately notices something off about all of them. He activates his spirit vision. They're all dead, zombies. Klein feels a wave of relief. Thank God I left Mr. Azek's copper whistle above the gray fog. If I'd brought it here, these corpses would have been drawn to it immediately. A man enters the room. Merrick, around 28 years old. He's clearly the one controlling the zombies. Merrick addresses Klein directly. I'll consider becoming your bodyguard, but first I need to understand the job. What's the situation? Why do you need protection? Klein explains honestly. I've offended a very powerful man. He's referring to the ambassador, of course. I killed one of his Beyonders in self-defense. He'll come for revenge eventually, and he likely has stronger Beyonders at his disposal. I need protection. Marek's expression hardens the moment Klein mentions the ambassador. An ambassador? A man of that caliber? No, I'm not getting involved in something like that. I won't take this job. Klein's heart sinks. He turns to Kasper's. Is there anyone else? Kasper shakes his head. Merrick is the strongest person I know in this line of work. If he's refusing because it's too dangerous, you won't find anyone else willing to take it. Klein sighs. Can you at least ask around? I'll come back in 2 or 3 days. Please see if you can find someone. Kasper's considers it. I'll ask, but there'll be a fee for the inquiry. Klein agrees. That's fine. Klein returns home, his mind racing. The ambassador lost one of his Beyonders, and he wants Ian right. If the ambassador believes Klein knows Ian's location, he'll send another Beyonder to kill Klein and extract the information through divination or interrogation. Klein is trapped in a dangerous situation, all because of Ian Wright. An actual ambassador from another nation is involved. This isn't some minor gang dispute anymore. A wild thought crosses Klein's mind. Should I just eliminate the ambassador first? He pauses. Wait, how would I even do that? I don't have a plan. Not yet, anyway. Klein decides to perform a divination instead. Where is Ian right now? The vision shows Ian sleeping on a bunk bed in some communal living quarters in East Borough. Klein knows how impoverished East Borough is. Countless residential buildings, endless rows of bunk beds packed into cramped quarters. Even if the entire city's police force mobilized to search for Ian, they'd never find him. The area is simply too vast, too chaotic. So Klein has a rough idea of Ian's location, but actually finding him is essentially impossible. Klein takes out a piece of paper and writes a message on it. I don't know where Ian is. I only met Ian once, when I showed him Detective Zuriel's body. Since then, I have no idea where he is. Klein places the note somewhere visible in his apartment. If someone breaks in to kill him while he's away, they might read it and realize Klein genuinely doesn't know Ian's whereabouts. Maybe they'll leave him alone. It's a desperate measure, born from fear. Though, to be fair, even if Klein isn't home when they arrive, at least this way, they'll know he's not withholding information. After returning home, Klein ascends above the gray fog to investigate why he suddenly felt warmth while sitting in the police station. The answer becomes clear immediately. Zio had undergone a purification ritual performed by a Beyonder from the Sun pathway. That's what caused the sensation. Klein can observe all of this through the Crimson Star. When he makes contact with it, the entire scene replays like footage from a surveillance camera. Zio's fear, the ritual, everything. Klein smiles to himself. Go ahead. Perform all the purification rituals you want. Nothing's happening to me. Interestingly, Klein is able to observe this for an unusually long time. Normally, when he connects with a Crimson Star, his viewing window is brief, just a few seconds. But when someone directly invokes the Fool's name, as Yo did, the connection strengthens significantly, allowing him to observe much longer. Since he's already above the gray fog, Klein decides to perform more divination about Ian. The gray fog amplifies his abilities considerably, making divination far more effective. He sees several new details. First, Ian's current location becomes clearer. Then Klein witnesses something he hadn't seen before. After Klein left the sewers that day, Ian returned. He went back down into the filth and extracted one of Detective Zuriel's teeth from the corpse. Additionally, Klein sees Ian visiting a telegraph office near Backlund Street in East Borough. These are valuable clues. Next, Klein examines the Beyonder characteristic he obtained from Merceau. He performs a divination to determine which pathway it belongs to. The answer: Hunter Pathway, Sequence 9. Merceau was a hunter, the very first sequence of that pathway, and yet, even at Sequence 9, he was formidable in combat. Klein recalls what he knows about the Hunter Pathway. It's associated with several powerful factions: the old royal family of Intis, the Sauron family, and the ruling family of the Faceac Empire, the Einhorn family. Additionally, a secret organization called the Iron and Blood Cross Order has followed this pathway for the past 2 or 3 centuries. Considering these facts, along with the ambassador's clothing and demeanor from the divination, Klein pieces together the man's identity. The ambassador is almost certainly a high-ranking diplomat from the Intis Republic, currently stationed in the Loan Kingdom. He's likely also acting as a spy for Intis. Klein has seen the ambassador's face twice now through divination. He just needs to confirm the man's exact identity. Klein descends from the gray fog and carefully checks his room, a routine precaution now. Anyone could break in at any time. Then he updates the note he left earlier, adding new information. Ian Wright was last seen at the telegraph office on Backlund Street in East Borough. With that done, Klein goes to sleep. Meanwhile, across the city, Fours is suffering. Tonight is a full moon, and whenever the full moon rises, the crimson moon, Fours' condition deteriorates drastically. She hears murmurs, incomprehensible voices whispering in her mind. Her hair grows longer and thicker unnaturally. Pain lances through her skull. She can't focus, can't understand what the voices are saying, only that they're there, relentless and maddening. Each time this happens, the duration increases. It started with 1 minute of agony. Now it's stretching to 2 minutes, sometimes 3. Fours feels dangerously close to losing control. If this continues, if it happens again next full moon, she might not be able to hold on. Incidentally, there's something worth mentioning that was overlooked earlier. Fours possesses a bracelet that allows her to travel through the spirit world and teleport short distances. It was with this bracelet that Fours and Sio managed to escape from Kalangos back in the first book, a detail that wasn't mentioned at the time. That's how they got away. For now, Fours removes the bracelet from her wrist. She doesn't want any mystical items influencing her negatively, especially when she's teetering on the edge of losing control. The next morning, Monday, Klein wakes and immediately notices something alarming. The 2 papers he left on the table have been moved. They've been turned over, clearly examined. Someone entered his home last night. But why didn't they kill him? Klein performs a coin divination. Did someone come here last night? The divination fails completely. No result. That means a Beyonder powerful enough to block divination was here. Someone far stronger than Klein. Klein remains calm, acting as if nothing has happened. He picks up the papers casually and leaves the apartment, heading straight to Jurgen Cooper's office. Jurgen has completed the contract as promised. Klein pays him £2 and collects the document. Afterward, he enjoys a hearty breakfast at Jurgen's grandmother's home. She insists on feeding him again. Contract in hand, Klein goes directly to Mr. Leopard's workshop. Leopard reviews the terms and signs without issue. The agreement is structured clearly. Klein will invest £100 in total for 35% ownership, but the payment will be made in 3 installments based on progress. Klein hands over £50 immediately, with 30 more to come once significant progress is made, and the final £20 upon completion. After all these expenses, Klein's finances are running thin. He has only £21 left in his pocket, along with some loose change. Another £100 remains safely deposited in his bank account. Klein finally sees the ambassador's photograph in the newspaper. The man is indeed an ambassador stationed in the Lowen Kingdom, but he represents the Intis Republic, similar to how a Chinese ambassador might be stationed in USA. His name is Backlund Jean Madan. From now on, we'll simply call him Backlund. Backlund is the one pulling all the strings. The Mersal case, the attack on Klein, the search for Ian Wright, all of it traces back to him. Klein doesn't know why Backlund is hunting Ian, but the ambassador's involvement has entangled Klein in a dangerous web. Both the police and military are now watching him closely because of the Mersal incident. Klein is fully aware he's under surveillance, so he continues acting completely normal, going about his daily routine, even displaying signs of anxiety and fear, as if he's just an ordinary man worried someone might kill him. This keeps his watchers convinced he's harmless. Eventually, Klein returns home and ascends above the gray fog. He performs a divination. Who entered his house last night? The vision reveals something unsettling. An iron-black threadworm, some kind of mystical creature, slithered into his apartment. It moved to the table where Klein had left his notes, rose up in an eerily human-like posture, read the messages, and then departed. So, someone sent this worm remotely to gather information. That's why Klein didn't die. The intruder wasn't physically present and couldn't harm him directly. They simply retrieved the information and left. Klein's sleep remained undisturbed throughout. Normally, Klein's clown intuition might have detected an intrusion, but in this particular case, it didn't trigger. The reason for that will become clear later. Today is Monday, which means it's time for the Tarot Club meeting. Klein is already above the gray fog from his divination work, so he summons the other members and begins the gathering. Alger presents 6 more pages of Emperor Rosel's diary. He had found 19 total, gave 6 last time, and now delivers another 6. Alger briefly considers using the sacrificial ritual to transfer all the pages at once, but since the fool hasn't requested it, he sticks with memorizing and presenting 6 at a time. Before Klein begins reading the diary, Alger speaks up. I've gathered information about the Secret Order. He explains that the Secret Order has connections to the Intis Republic. This makes sense. Emperor Rosel was from Intis and frequently met with Zeratul, the leader of the Secret Order. If Intis and the Secret Order are linked, and Backlund is an Intis ambassador, then it's possible Backlund enjoys protection from the Secret Order as well. Klein processes this quickly and makes a decision. He addresses the group directly. Today, I'm giving you a mission. Everyone immediately perks up. A mission? From the fool himself? This is unprecedented. Klein continues, one of my blessed has arrived in Backlund. He requests that you eliminate the ambassador of the Intis Republic, Backlund Jean Madan. Audrey's eyes widen in alarm. We have to kill someone? An ambassador? This is incredibly dangerous. Alger, however, remains composed, unfazed by the request. Klein clarifies, you may accept this mission if you wish, or decline it. There's no obligation, but if you do accept, tell me what reward you expect in return. Alger notices Audrey's discomfort and decides to provide context. This ambassador isn't a good man. Backlund is actually the intelligence chief of the Intis Republic operating within the Lowen Kingdom. He secretly promotes violence and bloodshed here, orchestrating incidents that damage relationships between nobles and wealthy families. He spreads rumors to turn the common people against the government. He controls Beyonders from the Hunter pathway, and may even be a Beyonder himself. If he continues operating freely inside the Lowen Kingdom, he'll eventually provoke a war between the two nations. Eliminating him would actually prevent greater catastrophe. Audrey considers this carefully and adds her own perspective. In recent years, the Faceless Empire has been expanding aggressively. They've defeated both the Lowen Kingdom and the Intis Republic along Balam's east coast and the Highlands. We could frame the assassination as their work. If we kill Backlund and make it appear the Faceless Empire is responsible, it might avoid triggering a war between Lowen and Intis. Audrey finally makes her decision. I accept the mission. I don't know if I'll succeed, but I'll try. Alger nods. I'm currently at sea, but I'll assist however I can from my position. Audrey states her terms. In return, I need the Sequence 7 Psychiatrist Potion Formula, the next advancement in my pathway. Also, I owe 5,000 pounds to your blessed for the Kalangos case. She's referring to the 10,000 pound reward she received from the government, half of which rightfully belongs to the blessed who killed Kalangos during that incident. Okay, so for those who are confused, let me explain this properly. The anime skipped this part for Season 2, but it actually happened earlier. First, Kalangos, an evil pirate, came to Backlund to assassinate Duke Negan. Now, Alger had already reported this mission to the Tarot Club, so everyone knew something dangerous was about to happen in the city. Because of that, Klein asked Mr. Azek for help, and Audrey sent Zio and Fours to look for Kalangos. But when they actually encountered him, they had to run. He was way too dangerous for their current level. Then comes Duke Negan's ballroom. Inside the ballroom, Audrey spotted a suspicious man and warned the others. This might be Kalangos. And yes, it was Kalangos. He tried to attack Duke Negan using a deadly sealed artifact called Creeping Hunger, which can store and use multiple Beyonder powers. But here's the twist. Duke Negan himself was also a Beyonder, so he managed to retaliate. Chilangos' assassination attempt failed, and he tried to escape. Unfortunately for him, Mr. Ozick was in Backlund, and his skeletons completely destroyed Chilangos. Why? Because Mr. Ozick was at a very high sequence at that time, way above Chilangos. As a result, Audrey gets a 10,000-pound reward from the government for identifying the assassin, and she assumes Mr. Ozick, who one-shot Chilangos, is one of Mr. Fool's blessed, which is why she offers the money during the tarot gathering. Understand? In short, Audrey now owes Klein 5,000 pounds, and she's taken on a dangerous assassination mission. Audrey feels an unfamiliar emotion. She's genuinely happy. For the first time, she feels important, useful. She has debts, responsibilities, a mission. Klein begins reading through the diary entries. In one passage, Roselle recounts meeting with Zaratul and asking him directly what sequence he had reached. Zaratul revealed that he was sequence 2, Miracle Invoker. Zaratul follows the Seer pathway, which means sequence 2 of the Seer pathway is likely Miracle Invoker. Klein makes a mental note of this. The diary continues. Roselle writes that many people believe fate is intrinsically tied to the Seer pathway, that seers are entirely governed by fate. But this is incorrect. Fate is only one specific aspect of the Seer pathway. In truth, fate itself is represented by the Monster pathway. Klein reads the sequences of the Monster pathway with fascination. Sequence 7, Lucky One. Sequence 5, Winner. Sequence 2, Soothsayer. Sequence 1, Snake of Mercury, also known as the Snake of Fate. Klein pauses, realizing the significance. For the first time, he's learned the name of a Sequence 1 from any pathway. This alone feels like a significant achievement. Roselle writes that, according to his knowledge, the Monster pathway is controlled by an organization called the Life School of Thought. This school also holds part of the Apothecary Sequence pathway. They believe the world is divided into 3 fundamental components: the world of absolute rationality, the spirit world, and the material world. The Life School of Thought specializes in astromancy. They use medicine, music, light, alcohol, and fragrance in ritualistic attempts to alter or erase unfavorable destinies revealed through star readings. They believe disasters and diseases occur when the balance between humans and nature, or between humans and their own minds, is disturbed. Interestingly, the Life School of Thought worships the moon. But Roselle raises a question. People already call the Evernight goddess the Crimson Moon and offer prayers to her. So why doesn't the Life School of Thought simply worship the Evernight goddess directly? It's something worth pondering. The next diary entry is dated April 18th. Roselle writes that his wife, Matilda, has become pregnant. He knows the exact moment conception occurred because during that particular session, his Beyonder characteristics weakened noticeably, indicating that some of his power transferred during conception. Curious about this phenomenon, Roselle consulted the Archbishop of Finepotter. The Archbishop explained the mechanics. If a Beyonder is at sequence 8 or 9, their characteristics don't transfer during conception at all. But if they're in the mid-sequences, 7, 6, 5, or 4, then a portion of their Beyonder characteristics does transfer to the child. This results in a half-Beyonder being born. The complication is that the child will need to follow the same pathway as their parent when they eventually consume potions. However, high-sequence Beyonders possess enough control to choose whether or not to transfer their power during conception. If they choose not to, the child is born entirely ordinary and can later become a Beyonder of any pathway. High-sequence Beyonders can also decide how much power to transfer, half, a third, or even the full extent of their abilities. This explains why the children of deities can sometimes be born as sequence 2 or even sequence 1 Beyonders directly from birth. Klein absorbs this information carefully. So this is how it works. High-sequence Beyonder children can inherit immense power from the moment they're born. The diary shifts topics. Roselle writes about his attempts to introduce popular music to society, but it's not going well. Everyone complains that it sounds like noise. Then Roselle records something more significant. He secretly met with a great pirate named Savigny Solomon at White Maple Palace. Roselle hopes Savigny will destroy newly established sea routes and attack the ships of Faceac, Lowen, and Finepotter. In exchange, Roselle promised to help Savigny advance to a high-sequence Beyonder. Roselle reflects on the peculiar naming conventions of the Black Emperor pathway, noting that the sequence names are as strange as those in the Demon pathway. Titles like Corruption, Confusion, The Fallen, The Disorder. But to match the grandeur of the Black Emperor's legacy, followers add noble suffixes: Baron of Corruption, Mentor of Disorder, Earl of the Fallen, Prince of Abolition. To honor Savigny appropriately, Roselle secretly bestowed upon him the title Earl of the Court. Roselle also mentions that Savigny has a son named Nast Solomon, and Roselle's intuition tells him that this boy will one day rule over the 5 seas. Klein's attention sharpens immediately. Nast Solomon. That name is familiar. Alger mentioned him during one of their earlier conversations. Nast Solomon is the current king of the 5 seas. Could this be the same Nast? It's entirely possible. Savigny likely advanced to a high sequence and trained his son on the same pathway. However, Nast couldn't have been born as a high sequence beyonder, because at the time of his birth, Savigny hadn't yet reached a high sequence himself. But perhaps Nast followed the same path his father walked. Is Nast on the Black Emperor pathway? The diary mentions the new sea route, which was discovered in 1194. Emperor Roselle died in 1198, so this entry must have been written sometime between those years. Back then, Nast would have been just a small child. From that time until now, 155 years have passed, which means Nast Solomon is currently around 160 years old. And he's still the king of the 5 seas. Klein considers this. Do Beyonders' lifespans increase as they advance in sequence? It seems likely. The answer to that question will come later. The diary reading concludes, and the meeting transitions to general discussion. The son speaks first. My sequence 9 potion has fully digested. I need the sequence 8 formula for the sun pathway. He addresses Audrey directly. In exchange, I can tell you everything I know about the dragon pathway, which is the ancient name for your pathway. Audrey doesn't possess the sequence 8 formula herself, but Klein, speaking as the fool, intervenes. On Miss Justice's behalf, I will provide you with the sequence 8 formula. Write it down. In return, give her the information she requires. And Miss Justice, you now owe me. I'll collect payment, either money or something my blessed requires, at a later time. Audrey agrees without hesitation. After this exchange, Audrey and the son enter a private conversation, an isolated communication within the gray fog where others cannot overhear. They've paid for this information, so it remains between them alone. The son, Derek, begins his explanation. Dragons were the eternal enemies of the Giant King. They resembled massive lizards, their entire bodies covered in colorful, iridescent scales. They had powerful limbs and enormous wings that allowed them to soar through the skies. Each dragon possessed unique abilities. Some breathed fire, others controlled lightning, and some wielded corrosion or frost. He pauses before continuing. But the strongest among them were the Mind Dragons, led by the Dragon King Ankevelt. Klein listens intently as Derek's words filter through to him. From Ankevelt came the Spectator Pathway, which we in the City of Silver call the Dragon Pathway. Ankevelt was the most powerful and terrifying dragon of all. He was known as the Dragon of Imagination. Whatever he imagined became reality. The kingdoms he envisioned descended directly into the material world. Whatever future he spoke of inevitably came to pass. Derek's tone grows darker. His son was Alzuhad, called the Dragon of Nightmare. He was even more terrifying. Alzuhad could control the hearts and desires of every living being, bending them to his will. Those he manipulated believed they were acting of their own volition. They never realized they were being controlled. He turned nightmares into reality and was infamous for his cruel mischief. He made a prince wake a princess who was already sleeping. He forced a girl to dance herself to death in enchanted shoes. He orchestrated coincidences that dragged people into tragedy. Klein feels a chill as he listens. But when the creator awakened, Derek continues, the Dragon of Imagination, the Dragon of Nightmare, and all the famous dragons fell from the sky and lost everything. Their deaths extinguished the sunlight for 49 days. Lava-spewing volcanoes erupted across the world, and massive tidal waves destroyed entire civilizations. He concludes, after the dragons fell, the survivors hid in the most dangerous, remote places, and later, the Giant King was also destroyed by the Creator's hand. Audrey absorbs all of this information, fascinated. But Klein's mind is racing in a different direction. The Dragon of Imagination and the Dragon of Nightmare, their abilities sound eerily familiar. Don't they resemble the powers of 008? That cursed quill also writes events into reality, forcing fate to bend to its narrative. The dragons wielded similar abilities. Could there be a connection? Klein has no proof, and he's not certain, but the parallel is too striking to ignore. It's worth remembering. The meeting concludes and everyone returns to reality. Audrey arrives back in her room and discovers something unexpected. Her brother Alfred has sent her a rainbow salamander, an entire living specimen. But Audrey has already consumed her Sequence 8 potion. She doesn't need this ingredient anymore. Then her gaze shifts to Susie, her dog, sitting nearby and watching her expectantly. Audrey smiles. Of course, she'll prepare the potion for Susie and advance her loyal companion into a Beyonder. But there's another matter demanding her attention. The mission. She needs to eliminate Ambassador Backlund. Audrey recalls that tomorrow, Countess Seria is hosting a ball, a grand social gathering. She hadn't originally planned to attend, but now her plans have changed. The ambassador will be there. This is her opportunity. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the city, Alger is shown moving through shadowed streets, wearing a mask, heading towards some secret location. The scene doesn't reveal more than that. Back in his apartment, Klein descends from the gray fog and begins piecing together what he's learned. The secret order has connections to Intis. That means whoever broke into his home last night, that iron-black threadworm, was likely sent by someone from the secret order. The secret order follows the seer pathway, which means the intruder was probably a high-sequence Beyonder from Klein's own pathway. That explains why Klein's clown intuition didn't trigger. When someone from the same pathway approaches, the danger sense doesn't activate as reliably. For now, Klein is relatively safe. The information he left on the papers, Ian's location near the telegraph office, would have reached the ambassador by now. They'll be focused on hunting Ian for the time being. But once they capture Ian or exhaust themselves trying, they'll return their attention to Klein. They'll come to eliminate him as a loose end. Klein doesn't have much time. He needs a bodyguard, urgently. He can't face a high-sequence Beyonder from his own pathway alone. The power gap is too vast. Klein leaves for the Bravehearts bar with a clear objective. Find a bodyguard, or at the very least, sell Mursal's Beyonder characteristic. The characteristic could be used to create a Sequence 9 Hunter pathway potion, which means it has value. He meets with Kaspars again. Look, I know Merrick is far too powerful to work for someone like me, but are there other Beyonders, less powerful ones, who might be willing to help? If there's a gathering happening, let me know. I'll attend and see if I can hire someone. Kaspars nods thoughtfully. I can arrange that, but it'll cost you £2 for the information. Klein hands over the money without hesitation. Kaspars pockets the coins. Actually, there's a Beyonder gathering that happens regularly. Weekly, in fact. It's taking place today. Let me check if I can get you in. He leaves briefly, then returns with confirmation. You're approved. You can attend. The gathering is held at a secret location. When they arrive, a man wearing an iron mask stands guard at the door. He glares at Kaspars with clear irritation. From now on, if you're bringing new people, inform us beforehand. Otherwise, you won't get entry next time. I'm letting it slide this once. Don't make it a habit. Klein is allowed inside and given an iron mask of his own. Hide your identity. No one reveals themselves here. Wear the mask, put on a hood, and then enter. Klein complies. This isn't some elite, high-level Beyonder gathering. It's modest, attended primarily by low-sequence Beyonders. The meeting begins, and the first person to speak is a heavy-set man. He stands and addresses the group. I've been cultivating certain plants in the sewers to produce medicinal ingredients. But there's some creature down there, probably a rat or some other beast, that keeps eating my crops. It avoids the poisonous plants, but destroys everything else. I need someone to eliminate this pest and protect my operation. In exchange, I'm offering 4 potion bottles. 2 will stop bleeding instantly, no need for a hospital. And the other 2, well, let's just say they'll make you perform like a beast in bed, if you know what I mean. Klein immediately recognizes the man's profession. An apothecary, Sequence 9, specializing in herbal remedies and potions. But which organization does he belong to? Klein considers 2 possibilities, the Life School of Thought or the Church of Earth Mother. Here's why Klein's thoughts went there. In the Lowen Kingdom, the Church of Storms has rejected both the eternal blazing sun and the God of knowledge and wisdom. The Church of Evernight and the Church of the God of Combat harbor such deep enmity that cooperation between them is impossible. Because of this political landscape, among all foreign religions, only the Church of Earth Mother has been granted limited permission to preach, though even that is done quietly, under pressure, and hidden from the 3 major churches. They maintain only a handful of small churches with very few followers. Their numbers are so sparse that they haven't even formed an official Beyonder team. And even if they did, the government wouldn't recognize them or allow them to cooperate with law enforcement. They'd simply be considered vigilantes. According to confidential Nighthawk records, the Church of Earth Mother controls 2 sequence pathways, Planter and Apothecary. However, the Apothecary pathway is incomplete, fragmented. That's why Klein suspects this man might be affiliated with the Church of Earth Mother. No one volunteers for the job initially. The fat man grows desperate and adds, I'll also pay 30 pounds, on top of the 4 potion bottles. Finally, someone stands. All right, I'll do it for 30 pounds and the 4 bottles. Next, a woman rises to speak. She's here to sell 2 items. The first is an inscribed steel sword, crafted by the Church of the Eternal Blazing Sun. It possesses purification and evil-warding properties, making it particularly effective against water ghosts, corrupted creatures, zombies, and other undead entities. The blade remains potent for 3 more years, and its edge is sharp enough to kill ordinary humans as well. She's asking 500 pounds for it, citing the embedded sun attribute that allows it to harm wraiths and spirits, making it highly valuable. The second item is an ordinary meat cleaver, no Beyonder characteristics whatsoever, but it's compact, well-balanced, and mechanically sound. She's asking 25 pounds for it. The woman also mentions she's willing to accept a barbarian potion formula in exchange for the 500-pound sword, either the formula or the cash. Klein is tempted by the sword, but he simply doesn't have that kind of money. He stays quiet as others negotiate purchases. Then Klein stands. I also have something to sell. He produces Mursal's Beyonder characteristic. Klein knows exactly what it is, a Sequence 9 Hunter Pathway characteristic that can be used to create a potion, but he feigns ignorance. I found this item. I'm not entirely sure what it is or what it's worth. If anyone can identify it and make an offer, I'm open to selling. The gathering is overseen by someone called Mr. Eye of Wisdom, similar to how Klein, as the Fool, presides over the Tarot Club. Mr. Eye of Wisdom sits in a mask, observing everything. He speaks up. I know what that is. It's valuable. I'll offer you 400 pounds for it. Klein accepts immediately. Deal. But I need to use that 400 pounds to hire a bodyguard. I've offended someone powerful, very high level, and I need protection. Laughter ripples through the room. One of the attendees responds, still chuckling. Friend, if you've offended someone that powerful, 400 pounds won't get you anything. No one here is willing to take on that kind of risk for that amount. Everyone in this room is low sequence. You're on your own. Klein doesn't find a bodyguard here either, but before the meeting concludes, one more transaction takes place, and this one is significant. The man who accepted the fat apothecary's job to clear the sewers speaks up. I have an item to sell. It's powerful, but extremely dangerous. Mr. Eye of Wisdom immediately intervenes. Wait, Black Snake, don't do this. No one's going to buy that item. So the seller's name is Black Snake. But Black Snake persists. Someone might find it useful. If Klein here wants something powerful for 400 pounds, something like a sealed artifact, this could work for him. Klein's interest is piqued. I'm listening. What is it? Black Snake explains. I have an ear. It's half rotted. They say if you touch this ear, you hear things. Terrible things. Most people go insane. The chances of dying are extremely high, but if you can control it somehow, maybe you'll gain something from it. I'll give it to you for the 400 pounds you just received. Klein considers this carefully. He doesn't know what the ear can do exactly, but he needs to survive. This might be his only option. Deal. Take the 400 pounds. Give me the ear. Black Snake hands over a box containing a decayed human ear, literally a rotting human ear. The apothecary, the fat man from earlier, watches this exchange and shakes his head. Friend, you're going to die for sure. Your behavior doesn't seem right to me at all. Give me your address. When you're dead, I'll come collect your belongings. If a Beyonder characteristic forms from your corpse, I'll take it. It's a morbid joke, but the underlying message is clear. What Klein just did is incredibly dangerous, and he might actually lose his life. The apothecary then asks if anyone has spring of marrow crystals for sale. Mr. Eye of Wisdom sighs. You ask for that every single meeting. No one has it. Stop. The meeting is over. No more transactions. After the gathering ends, Klein finds Kaspar's. That was a good meeting. Transactions were happening, items were being sold. I need to attend again. When's the next one? Kaspar's replies, keep in touch. Whenever there's a meeting, I'll let you know. There's actually a secret method for joining these gatherings regularly, but Klein doesn't know it yet. He'll learn eventually. Klein also reminds himself not to bring Azek's copper whistle to these meetings. Merrick controls zombies and the whistle attracts the dead. That could cause serious problems. Now, alone, Klein cautiously touches the ear. The moment his finger makes contact, he hears strange, incomprehensible sounds. A wave of corruption washes over him and his mind reels. He understands immediately. If I hold on to this for too long, I'll lose control. I'll die. There's no saving myself from that. Whenever such sounds and sensations of corruption appear, it indicates involvement of the true creator. This ear is somehow connected to the true creator. Klein realizes there's only one way to safely examine this item. Take it above the gray fog. That space has always been shielded. No voices, no corruption, no external influence. Klein ascends above the gray fog, holding the ear. True to his expectation, the corrupting sounds cease completely. The space protects him. He performs a divination. What is the origin of this ear? Where did it come from? The vision shows him a man whose body is swelling grotesquely. Veins bulge outward, eyes protrude from their sockets, hair thickens and grows unnaturally long. The man is in agony, and then he bursts. Inside the gray fog, the same thing begins happening to Klein. His veins start transforming into writhing tentacles. It's horrifying, nightmarish, pure corruption manifesting physically. Then Klein hears howling sounds even within the gray fog. His mind fractures under the assault. The gray fog itself begins to tremble. Klein's body sprouts more tentacles, twisting and coiling. Klein thinks desperately, "I'm done for." This is similar to what happened when Klein accidentally glimpsed the true form of the sun god. Except this time, he's likely divined something connected to the true creator. But Klein took this risk knowingly. He knew the gray fog would stabilize eventually, and it does. The trembling subsides. The tentacles that erupted from Klein's body separate from him and fall away. Klein's body begins healing. He finally understands. This ear belongs to the true creator. It's immensely powerful, but how to use it safely? That's still unclear. Suddenly, the ear in his hand crumbles. It dissolves into black lights, scattering like dark embers. The tentacles that separated from Klein's body, the physical manifestation of corruption, are still twitching on the ground. Klein has an idea. What if I combine them? He gathers the tentacles and brings them together with the disintegrating ear. If something happens, it might be interesting. The moment they merge, dim black smoke rises and forms a vision, a sky filled with constantly flashing lightning. The scene is dense, oppressive, terrifying, and impossibly dark. Then, just as quickly, it vanishes. Lying on the ground before Klein is an iron-black object. Strange symbols, mystical labels, horrifying carvings, and twisted pathway runes glow across its surface. Klein has accidentally created a charm, an extraordinarily powerful charm infused with the true creator's essence. What does this charm do? Simple. If you strike someone with it, complete corruption spreads through the area. Their mind shatters. They won't survive, not unless they're a high-sequence beyonder. Whoever is hit will fall into corruption, their body and mind collapsing. It can only be used once, but it's devastatingly effective. If someone comes to kill Klein, this charm could save his life. Against low-sequence beyonders, it's essentially an instant kill. Klein names it himself, Language of Foulness. On Tuesday morning, Klein learns that gunfire erupted in Red Brick Alley in East Borough. That's the same area where Ian was last spotted near the telegraph office. The Zmanger gang must have tracked Ian there, leading to a violent confrontation, either with local gangs or the police. Klein's thoughts race. Has Ian been caught? If he hasn't, then the Zmanger gang will turn their attention back to Klein next. Just then, the doorbell rings. Klein's heart jumps. Who is it? He quickly performs a divination to check who's outside. The vision shows Mrs. Sammer, his landlady, accompanied by another woman. The woman's name is Mary Gale. She is a stakeholder in the coin company where Mr. Sammer works. Mary has come seeking Klein's services as a detective, specifically Sherlock Moriarty's services. She gets straight to the point. Mr. Moriarty, my husband is having an affair. I need you to confirm it. If you can prove that he's cheating, I'll pay you £30. But if you bring actual evidence, photographs for instance, I'll give you an additional £10. She hands Klein a camera. This is a portable camera. Keep it for a few days and use it to capture the evidence. Portable cameras are relatively new technology, still bulky and cumbersome. The problem is that the flash can't be disabled. If Klein catches Mary's husband in a compromising position, the flash will go off the moment he takes the photo, alerting everyone immediately. It's going to be tricky, but Klein accepts anyway. I'll take the case. I'll investigate your husband. Meanwhile, Audrey attends a grand ball, and yes, Backlund Jean Madan, the ambassador, is there as well. Audrey meets him, and Backlund is immediately captivated. He has never seen anyone as beautiful as Audrey, and Audrey is, admittedly, extraordinarily beautiful. Backlund approaches her with exaggerated flattery. Miss, I must say, I have never encountered a woman more stunning than you in my entire life. You're absolutely radiant. Audrey responds politely but coolly. Thank you very much. She excuses herself and walks away. But she has already identified his weakness. He's a lecher. This vulnerability could be exploited to eliminate him. Audrey begins formulating a plan. Shortly after, a young man named Cons approaches her. He is the youngest son of Viscount Learison. He warns her quietly, be careful around Backlund. He has a habit of ensnaring young women with smooth talk. Don't fall for it. Cons is genuinely concerned. Audrey reassures him. Cons, you've known me long enough. Do you really think I'd be attracted to someone like that? First of all, his perfume was revolting. I nearly gagged, but I'll play along with his game. Cons nods, but adds something more serious. Look, Audrey, I don't know how much you understand about Beyonders, but I'll tell you this much. Backlund is a Sequence 6 Beyonder. His title is Conspirator. He's incredibly skilled at manipulation and scheming. He's brilliant, calculated, and dangerous. He keeps 10 to 20 Beyonders in his employ, and I've heard rumors that he's protected by a secret organization, one that includes a Sequence 5 Beyonder. Audrey absorbs this information carefully. A secret organization protecting him? That's almost certainly the Secret Order. And a Sequence 5 from the Seer pathway, the same pathway Klein follows, which means this Sequence 5 Beyonder is likely the one who will come after Klein next. The situation just became far more dangerous. Back with Klein, he stations himself outside the coin company, waiting. He is watching for Mary's husband, Daragu Gale. The moment Daragu exits the building, Klein will tail him. When Daragu finally emerges, Klein deliberately bumps into him and slips a button into his pocket. Klein has grown smarter. Instead of divining the person directly, which can be blocked, it's more reliable to divine an object that belongs to him. Klein will track the button through divination. It's essentially a tracker. The concept is similar to what modern investigators use, except Klein's method is mystical. Following the button's trail through divination, Klein tracks Daragu to the Quilla Club. Daragu enters, but when Klein tries to follow, the guards stop him. This is an exclusive members-only establishment. To gain entry, you need recommendations from 2 existing members. The first year's membership fee is £50, with an annual renewal fee of £15 thereafter. Klein doesn't have that kind of access, or money. He returns home. But the button is still in Daragu's pocket, which means Klein can use dream divination to observe him remotely. Klein ascends above the gray fog and performs the divination. The vision shows Daragu engaged in an affair with another woman. Confirmation, Daragu is cheating. While above the gray fog, Klein performs another divination. Was the person who sent the iron black worm into his home from the Seer pathway? The answer comes back clearly, yes. The connection is now obvious. It's almost certainly the Sequence 5 Beyonder from the Seer pathway, the one protecting Backlund. Interestingly, this kind of divination, determining which pathway the worm belonged to, should have failed. But inside the gray fog, it succeeded. Klein wonders, is the gray fog itself somehow connected to the Seer pathway? Audrey wastes no time. She immediately returns from the ball and goes to Viscount Glaint's estate. She summons Yo and Fours and lays out the situation directly. There's a new mission. We need to assassinate the ambassador, Backlund Jean Madan. Sho and Fours exchange uneasy glances. How can we possibly do this? We're not powerful enough for something like that. Audrey nods. I know you can't do it yourselves. What I need is for you to find someone who can. I'll pay you £500 just for finding the right person, and whoever actually carries out the assassination will receive £4,000. Seo considers this. Some people from Mr. A's organization contacted me recently, saying they'd be available for commissions. I can reach out to them. Seo makes contact with Mr. A, and surprisingly, Mr. A himself agrees to meet with her in secret. Seo explains the job. The target is Backlund Jean Madan. He needs to be eliminated. Mr. A responds calmly, "You realize he's an ambassador, correct?" He considers the offer. "I can handle this, but your payment is far too low. I want £10,000, not $4,000. Alternatively, you can provide me with a potion formula, unshadowed, cataclysm, interrare, prophet, or manipulator. It doesn't even need to be complete. A partial formula will suffice." The formulas Mr. A is requesting are likely Sequence 4 or higher, which would indeed be worth that much, possibly even more. Zio and Fours relay this to Audrey. They speculate that Mr. A probably needs the money to support the many people working under him. Audrey considers her options. "I don't have access to Sequence 4 potion formulas. Let's settle on £10,000. The deal is finalized. Audrey agrees to pay £2,000 up front, with the remaining $8,000 to be paid upon completion. For the first time in her life, Audrey actually feels the weight of financial strain. She borrows money from Viscount Glaint instead. "I'll pay you back in weekly installments." Meanwhile, Klein returns home and Mary Gale comes to meet him. Klein reports his findings. "Yes, your husband is cheating. I've confirmed it through my investigation. However, I don't have physical proof yet. I can't gain entry without membership." Mary doesn't hesitate. "That's not a problem. I'll arrange for 2 people to recommend you, and I'll cover the first year's membership fee, £50. Go inside, find out who my husband is involved with, and bring me proof." Klein agrees. "Once I have entry to the club, I'll continue the investigation." That night, Klein returns to the Bravehearts bar. He deliberately acts troubled and anxious, putting on a performance for the military and police surveillance teams watching him. He wants them to believe he's just an ordinary, frightened man who poses no threat. But the real reason Klein is here is urgent. He desperately needs a bodyguard. He's confirmed that whoever is coming for him is a high-sequence Beyonder from the Seer pathway, someone far more powerful than Klein. As soon as Klein arrives, Kaspars approaches him. Merrick was looking for you. He meets with Merrick, who gets straight to the point. I can't be your bodyguard, but I know someone, a woman, who's willing to take the job. She's even stronger than I am. Normally, she doesn't do this kind of work, but right now she needs money urgently. She'll protect you for 3 days, whichever 3 days you choose, and her fee is 1,000 pounds. Klein's mind races. Where am I going to get 1,000 pounds? Then he remembers. Audrey owes him money. He gave the Sun Pathway Sequence 8 formula to Derek on her behalf. He can claim payment for that, saying his blessed needs it. He'll figure out a way to scrape together the rest. I accept, Klein says. I'll manage the 1,000 pounds. When I need her, I'll let you know immediately, and we'll finalize the arrangement. This bodyguard is going to be crucial. Things are about to escalate dramatically. A major confrontation is coming. Klein returns home and immediately senses that Audrey has sent a message through the gray fog. He ascends to check. Audrey's message reads, I've given the contract on Backlund to Mr. A. Backlund is a Sequence 6 conspirator of the Hunter pathway. He also has a Sequence 5 assistant. The moment Klein learns that Audrey contracted Mr. A, alarm bells ring. He sends an urgent reply. Audrey, be extremely careful. Don't appear before Mr. A personally. He's likely affiliated with the Aurora Order. Mr. A is likely Sequence 5 or 6. Klein reflects on the formulas Mr. A requested. Unshadowed, Cataclysm, Interer, Prophet, or Manipulator. He's willing to accept any one of the 4. That tells Klein something important. Mr. A is probably at Sequence 5 and looking to advance to Sequence 4, where pathways can interchange. That's why he's desperate. Klein is relieved that Audrey settled on the monetary payment. If she'd offered a formula, it could have been disastrous. Klein actually possesses the unshadowed formula, Sequence 4 of the Sun pathway, but he would never hand it over to someone like Mr. A. The Aurora Order operates like terrorists. Giving them anything would be catastrophic. Klein sends another message. Deposit 1,000 pounds into my Blessed's account. This is payment for the Sequence 8 formula I provided to Derek on your behalf. The next morning, Audrey's response has already arrived. The money has been deposited. Klein marvels at her efficiency. If only all sponsors were like that. After breakfast, Mary Gale arrives to take Klein to the Quilla Club. She introduces him to 2 members for recommendations. Aaron Ceres, surgeon, and Talim Dumont, aristocratic equestrian instructor. Klein pays the prorated membership fee of 54 pounds. During their conversation, Klein learns the truth about the Coim Company. Mary's 20% stake is now worth around 20,000 pounds due to the skyrocketing demand for anthracite. This stake was given to her husband, Dorigu, as a dowry. This is why Mary needs concrete evidence. If she can prove he is cheating, she can reclaim half of that stake, 10,000 pounds. She's paying Klein just 10 pounds for a 10,000 pound result. It's an investment. The Quilla Club itself is impressive, boasting a shooting range where Klein can finally practice again. He retreats to a private room, sets up a spirituality wall, and performs a divination. Will I face danger in the coming days? The answer is unequivocal. Grave danger. Terrible danger. Klein's life is at serious risk. Klein doesn't waste a second. He leaves the club and heads straight to the Brave Hearts bar. He finds Marich and hands him 100 pounds. This is the advance. I'll pay the remaining 900 pounds. I need the bodyguard now. Klein didn't hand over the full amount because banking takes time in this era. He withdraws the maximum 100 pounds available immediately as a down payment. Merrick accepts. Deal. You have a bodyguard for 3 days. Your protection has already begun. Klein looks around. Where's the bodyguard? He doesn't see anyone. He activates his spirit vision. Still nothing. Merrick smirks slightly. Don't worry, you're protected. Now go. Klein wonders briefly if Merrick is scamming him, but he lacks the luxury of choice. He boards his carriage and returns to his residence at 15 Minsk Street. Once inside, he performs a routine cleaning at the wash basin. He splashes the water. He dries his face. And as he glances into the mirror, the atmosphere shifts. A young woman in an elegant black dress emerges directly from the mirror's surface. Her face is completely expressionless as she offers a slow, graceful bow. This is his bodyguard, Miss Bodyguard. Klein remains uncertain of her nature. Is she human, a ghost, or a high-sequence manifestation? She hovers in the air for several seconds, then vanishes completely. Even with his spirit vision activated, Klein cannot detect her presence. He notes the strategic advantage of a pathway that allows for effortless levitation and absolute concealment. Her power is undeniable. A knock at the door interrupts his thoughts. It is Ian Wright, the catalyst for the current situation. Ian speaks with urgency. "I'm with MI9. He claims affiliation with the Military Intelligence Department, asserting that the matter will be resolved soon. As he begins his report, the bodyguard materializes again. She takes a seated position, silent, cold, assessing every word of the intelligence being shared. Ian discloses that Detective Zriel was a spy for the Fysak Empire. Zriel utilized children for espionage due to their ability to move without suspicion. 2 weeks ago, Ian obtained information regarding Trunsoest von Helmosen's manuscript. Helmosen was a prominent scientist, a mechanist, often called the mad scientist, who believed in the eventual replacement of humans by machines. His manuscript reportedly contains critical designs for a third-generation engine. Ian explains that he informed Zriel, who intended to notify his superior. However, following a failed attempt to steal the manuscript, Ian found Zriel deceased in the sewers. Ian later retrieved a tooth from the body, which contained an engraved method for contacting Zriel's superior. The subsequent attempt to send a telegram resulted in an immediate information leak. This led to attacks by the Zmanger gang and a large-scale confrontation involving MI9. Later, Intis intelligence operatives surrounded Ian during a meeting. MI9 intervened once more, saving Ian during the ensuing conflict. Klein identifies the structural flaw in the operation immediately. "Ian, every time you communicated with Zriel's superior, the information leaked. The Zmanger gang's involvement confirms it. Zriel's superior is a mole, a double agent, serving both the Intis Republic and the Fysak Empire." Ian acknowledges the danger he has brought upon Klein and prepares to depart. "I'm truly sorry." Klein recognizes the severity of the threat. His divination has already confirmed grave danger. It has forced him to commit £1,000 for professional protection. He expects an imminent attack from a mid-sequence beyonder of the Seer pathway. Simultaneously, at the Intis embassy, Ambassador Backlund Jean Madan hosts a grand ball. His external composure masks a highly calculated intelligence operation. Backlund's strategy began when his mole provided the initial leads. He successfully tracked Ian's movements through the telegraph office. He infiltrated a double agent into the Fysak intelligence team to monitor their meetings. Backlund deliberately allowed MI9 to locate Ian, creating a controlled conflict that exhausted his opponent's resources. With MI9 distracted, Backlund has deployed his primary asset, Rosago. Rosago is a sequence 5 of the Seer pathway. At this moment, he is utilizing advanced divination to finalize the mission. While Klein operates with the limited foresight of a sequence 8, Rosago possesses the expanded conceptual reach of a mid-sequence beyonder. Backlund's plan was calculation at its most cynical, create complete chaos, obtain the manuscript by any means necessary, and, if things went catastrophically wrong, flee Backlund entirely. Not that leaving would be much of a loss. To Backlund, the city's pollution is simply unbearable. As he stands at the party, surrounded by the elite, Backlund is thoroughly pleased with himself. His plan is brilliant. Then, his gaze falls on a strikingly beautiful young woman. Backlund's nature as a lecher needs no further explanation. He approaches her, turning on the charm. Her name is Elaine, daughter of a timber merchant. The merchant isn't wealthy. He's ambitious. He's striving to climb the social ladder. Backlund skillfully manipulates the conversation. He leans in, suggesting, "Come, I'll pour you a very rare liquor, but we'll need to go to my room for that." The implication is obvious. Elaine agrees. As they walk toward his private chambers, Backlund instructs his guards, his voice firm. "Don't let anyone disturb us. Stay outside. No matter what." Once inside, Backlund leads Elaine directly to the bed. She moves into his embrace, willingly. But suddenly, the atmosphere freezes. Her fingernails extend into claws. She attacks. Backlund is a sequence 6. He reacts instantly. He strikes her with brutal force. Foam spills from her mouth. Elaine collapses, incapacitated. Flames ignite in Backlund's palm. He uses them to strangle her from a distance, gripping her throat telekinetically with fire. "Who sent you?" he demands, his voice a furious snarl. "Who ordered you to assassinate me? How did you even get in here? Don't you know how powerful I am?" At that moment, fire erupts from the floor, directly beneath Backlund. He barely dodges, rolling aside. Then, he looks back at Elaine, and he stops. She doesn't look like Elaine anymore. Something is emerging from inside her body. It is literally tearing through her stomach. Blood sprays across the room. But it's not a child being born. A fully grown man rips his way out of her corpse, drenched in blood. How is this possible? Only one type of Beyonder can do this. A sequence 6 on the secret suppliant pathway. A Rose Bishop. They possess flesh and blood magic, allowing them to hide inside another person's body, undetected. The host appears completely normal, but inside, someone else is waiting. Backlund screams, "Help! Someone's here!" He has plenty of Beyonders in his employ. 10 to 20 of them are nearby, but no one comes. The blood-soaked man smiles coldly. "You're the one who told your guards not to let anyone in. Remember? I simply modified that rule slightly. You're now isolated, and according to the law I've established, you can only escape this isolation by being defeated. Lawmaking. That's a power from the lawyer pathway. Sequence 6, known as Baron of Corruption. This man just demonstrated abilities from 2 different sequences, Secret Suppliant and Lawyer. How? The answer hits Backlund like a hammer. This man is a shepherd. On the Secret Suppliant pathway, Sequence 5 is Shepherd. Shepherds can steal and absorb the powers of other Beyonders. The ability is devastating. This shepherd is overwhelmingly powerful. Backlund's composure cracks. "Who are you? Why are you doing this? Are you Mr. A?" The shepherd, Mr. A, responds calmly, "It doesn't matter who I am. Just pray to your god. It's time to meet him." Backlund suddenly laughs. "I was just stalling for time. Now, watch this." He pulls out the severed head of a puppet with pitch-black eyes, a binding artifact. Mr. A's movements stiffen. His limbs lock up, restrained by the puppet's curse. But Mr. A transforms. Horns erupt from his head, wings burst from his back, spreading wide. He's taken the form of a demon. Sulphurous smoke billows around him. This demonic transformation must have been stolen from a devil pathway Beyonder. Though partially restrained, Mr. A uses the wings to maneuver. He stays mobile. Backlund seizes the opportunity. He summons a flaming spear, blazing with heat. "I'll pierce you through with this." But suddenly, Backlund starts coughing. Violently, blood sprays from his mouth. Mr. A smirks. "What did you think? Why do you think I was wasting time? I was giving you a disease. You have pneumonia now. You'll cough yourself to death." Disease manipulation, another stolen power. This one belongs to the Demoness pathway, likely Sequence 5, Affliction. Mr. A explains, "This gift came from St. Tenebris. He deliberately showed me this ability, allowing me to record it." A book materializes before Mr. A, its pages turning. "I came, I saw, I recorded," Mr. A intones. "As long as I've recorded it, I can use it once. I can only wield half its original power, but that's more than enough. You're diseased, and you're finished." Backlund weakens. The pneumonia takes hold. The flaming spear dissipates. Then, his body begins to swell, grotesquely. Flames burst from his skin. His body splits apart with a sickening crack, then explodes in a fiery blast. Mr. A watches impassively. Backlund is done. Gone. Finished. Goodbye. Mr. A doesn't linger. He immediately leaps out the window. The explosion will draw attention. Other Beyonders will arrive any second. And they do. The remaining operatives rush in and find Backlund dead. The man who led the Zmanger gang, the high-ranking operative of the Intis Republic, the ambassador who sent assassins after Klein, he is gone. Meanwhile, in parallel, someone arrives at Klein's door. Klein prepares himself for battle, gathering every tool and charm at his disposal. He performs a quick coin divination. Is there danger outside? The answer, no danger. But Klein doesn't trust it. The person hunting him is from the Seer pathway and high sequence. Divination can be manipulated or blocked. Klein remains ready. He opens the door cautiously. Standing outside is Sergeant Faxine from the Cherwood police station. Faxine speaks urgently. "I received a report that you'll be attacked today. I was ordered to warn you directly. Be careful." Then Faxine continues. "You've offended an ambassador, so you have 3 options." Suddenly, Klein feels something wrong. His vision blurs. His body slows down, as if moving through thick syrup. It is the same sensation he felt near Artifact 2049 back in Tingen, the one that slowed movement to a crawl. But there is no artifact here, and no one around to save him. This is the power of a high-sequence seer, Sequence 5. Before Klein's eyes, Faxine's face shifts and transforms. The disguise melts away, revealing someone else entirely. Rosago. At Sequence 5, Beyonders gain the ability to change their appearance completely. It is a devastating power. Rosago has trapped Klein. Klein can barely move, everything happening in agonizing slow motion. His body refuses to obey. Rosago smiles coldly. Your time is up. I've been watching you for days. I came prepared. Now, I'll eliminate you. But before Rosago can strike, Miss Bodyguard materializes from nowhere. She attempts to intercept him from behind. Rosago doesn't even flinch. I'm also a seer. I came here after divining everything. I knew you had a mid-sequence beyonder protecting you, so I prepared countermeasures. He begins controlling Miss Bodyguard as well, exerting his power over her. She starts to slow down, caught in the same trap, but she's higher in sequence than Klein. She resists, struggling against the binding force. Rosago focuses his attention on her. If he can fully restrain Miss Bodyguard first, then Klein will be helpless. Easy prey. Klein watches desperately. Miss Bodyguard is fighting, but Rosago is stronger. It is only a matter of time before he overcomes her resistance and comes for Klein. Maybe seconds. That's all Klein has. Then Klein remembers the language of foulness charm. He pulls it out with trembling hands. The moment he touches it, whispers from the true creator seep into his mind, faint, corrupting. Klein pours all of his spirituality into the charm and waits. 3 seconds, that's all he needs. In those 3 seconds, Miss Bodyguard's condition worsens. Rosago is nearly in full control of her. The moment arrives, Klein hurls the language of foulness charm directly at Rosago. The effect is instant and catastrophic. The charm unleashes the true creator's corruption in full force. Rosago hears voices, incomprehensible, maddening, overwhelming. His mind fractures under the assault. He starts screaming, clawing at himself in absolute madness. The charm's range is so wide that Klein and Miss Bodyguard also feel its effects. Both are struck by the wave of corruption, but Klein is affected the least. He has encountered the true creator's influence multiple times before. He has glimpsed the sun god's true form. He has heard the murmurs above the gray fog. Experience has made him resilient. Klein recovers first. He shakes off the lingering disorientation and looks up. Rosago is in ruins. He has torn his own skin off in his madness. Screaming incoherently, his muscles and flesh are exposed, blood streaming down his body. Klein doesn't hesitate. He draws his revolver, presses the barrel directly against Rosago's temple, and fires. Bang, bang, bang. Rosago collapses, dead. The sequence 5. Seer who hunted Klein is eliminated. Rosago's corpse is still twitching, violently. Even in death, the flesh refuses to rest. Klein calms the frantic movements with a requiem charm. Then, he turns to Miss Bodyguard. She is writhing in pain, the true creator's corruption eating at her spirit. Klein does not hesitate. He places 2 slumber charms on her. 2, to ensure they are effective. He needs her to rest while he works. Miss Bodyguard falls into a deep sleep. She is mid-sequence, so the charms will not last long. But Klein only needs a little time to finish what he has to do. What does Klein need? He needs the formulas. He needs to extract the knowledge from Rosago's memories. But there is a major problem. Rosago is tainted. If Klein performs divination directly, the true creator's presence will overwhelm him. It would be absolute destruction. So Klein seeks the only safe harbor he knows. He ascends above the gray fog in his spiritual form, dragging Rosago's spirit into that ancient, silent space. Inside the fog, Klein is protected. Klein begins the divination. Extract all formulas from the seer pathway. The results come flooding in, like a tide of forbidden secrets. First, sequence 9, seer. Klein already knows this. Then, sequence 8, clown. He knows this too. Then, sequence 7, magician. This is Klein's next advancement. It is perfect. Then, sequence 6, faceless. The ability Rosago used to wear the sergeant's skin. At this sequence, Klein will be able to change his appearance entirely. And finally, sequence 5, marionettist. Rosago's true power. Klein now holds the formula, but it is not simple. Advancing requires more than a potion. It requires a ritual. To become a marionettist, one must drink the potion while witnessing a mermaid singing in the sea. Only then will the advancement succeed. Klein has the formulas now. He just needs to gather the materials when the time comes. For now, this is enough. Klein returns to the real world. Miss Bodyguard is just waking up. She looks at Klein with a mixture of confusion and mild annoyance. What did you do to me? You threw charms at me, Klein explains quickly, maintaining his facade. That foulness charm, it came from the ear I obtained at the gathering. I was fortunate enough to convert it, and I used the slumber charms because you were in pain. I couldn't stand watching you suffer, so I put you to sleep to help you recover. He doesn't mention the gray fog. That remains his secret. They search Rosago's belongings. Klein finds 12 pounds in cash and pockets it. Then, Miss Bodyguard pulls out a piece of orange-colored paper covered in symbols and markings. "This is mine," she declares. "Spoils of war are divided equally, correct? I'll take this." Klein nods. "What is it?" "It is a notary paper, covered in mystical inscriptions. If the notarization remains valid, a Beyonder's power increases. If it becomes invalid, the power decreases." She offers no further detail. Klein makes a mental note. He must learn more later. Then, Klein notices it. A black block is formed from Rosago's corpse. Inside it is a pupil-like eye. It is the Sequence 5 characteristic. Miss Bodyguard glances at it and shakes her head. "That is useless. It is tainted, corrupted by the true creator." Klein reaches for it anyway. "I'll keep it." The moment Klein touches the black eye, pain lances through him. The true creator's whispers invade his mind again, maddening, incomprehensible. But beneath the corruption, Klein feels power. Suddenly, his vision shifts. He can see black threads, dozens of them, extending from people nearby. They are invisible connections, stretching outward like puppet strings. Klein understands immediately. This is how marionettists control the world. Like a puppeteer manipulating marionettes, a marionettist sees and manipulates these spirit body threads. Even if someone becomes invisible, Klein can still see their threads. It is a fascinating and terrifying ability. Klein immediately places the corrupted Beyonder characteristic inside a metal box. Metal is the only material that can seal its spirituality and prevent the corruption from leaking out. Now, they need to clean the scene. There is a corpse lying in the middle of Klein's home. Miss Bodyguard gestures dismissively. "Don't worry, I'll handle it." She floats upward, then incorporates herself into Rosago's body, merging with it like liquid. She lifts the corpse effortlessly, cleans up all traces of blood and evidence, and prepares to leave. Klein is impressed. That is genuinely useful. She can enter anything like slime and remove it completely. Perfect for disposal. As she is about to depart, Klein calls out, "Wait, Rosago came here disguised as Sergeant Faxine, wearing his uniform. His real clothes must be hidden somewhere nearby. If you find them, bring them back. I want to perform divination on them." "Understood. I'll dispose of the body first, then retrieve the clothing." Once Miss Bodyguard leaves, Klein wastes no time. He immediately performs a divination. Has Backlund died? He flips a coin. The result? Yes, Backlund is dead. Klein allows himself a moment of relief. The ambassador is gone. The Sequence 5 spy Backlund sent to kill him is also eliminated. Whatever schemes the Inti's spies were orchestrating to undermine the Lowen Kingdom, Klein has dismantled them. He is safe now. Klein thinks to himself with genuine admiration, "Audrey, you're incredible. You eliminated Backlund without even lifting a finger yourself." Meanwhile, at Backlund's residence, official Beyonder investigators have arrived. They analyze the scene carefully, examining the patterns of destruction. After some deliberation, they conclude that whoever killed Backlund used powers from multiple different sequences, not just one pathway. Who can wield multiple sequence abilities simultaneously? A shepherd. And who controls the secret suppliant pathway that shepherds belong to? The Aurora Order. The investigators reach a consensus. This was the Aurora Order's doing. Back at Klein's home, Miss Bodyguard returns after disposing of the body. She hands Klein Rosago's original clothing. Klein addresses her. "Look, the danger has passed. I hired you for 3 days, but it's only been a few hours, and the job is already finished. I'll still pay you the remaining 900 pounds, but you're free to go now." Miss Bodyguard shakes her head. "I accepted a contract for 3 days of protection. I will protect you for 3 days. I didn't agree to protect you from one specific danger. If 1,000 threats come within 3 days, I'll defend against all of them. I'm staying for the full 3 days." Klein feels a flicker of discomfort. She is invisible most of the time. He never knows where she is. What if he goes to bathe? What if he's just living his life? More importantly, he cannot ascend above the gray fog while she is around. Even when she's invisible, she's somewhere nearby, observing. But there is nothing he can do about it. If she insists on staying, so be it. Klein washes his face and hands, then lies down to sleep. As he rests, his mind wanders through the future. After this, I'll advance to Sequence 7 Magician. How will I act to digest the potion? What powers will I gain? Then I'll become Sequence 6, Faceless. I'll be able to change my appearance at will. And eventually, Sequence 5, Marionettist. That sequence seems extraordinarily powerful. Rosago's abilities were terrifying. He nearly defeated both Miss Bodyguard and me together. The only reason we survived was the language of foulness charm. Without it, even working together, we couldn't have defeated him. The seer pathway truly is incredible. Powerful, versatile, but always requiring careful preparation. You fight from the shadows, planning every move in advance. Klein cogitates on these thoughts, and eventually, sleep takes him. The next morning, Klein wakes up. The moment he opens his eyes, Miss Bodyguard materializes before him, suddenly visible after being invisible all night. "While you were sleeping, MI9 operatives came here," she reports calmly. "They didn't find anything, so they left. The military and police will likely leave you alone now. Their primary concern was B-Clan, and that's resolved. Everything's returned to normal." Klein exhales with relief. Finally, he can live peacefully. No more being watched by 10 different groups, police surveillance, MI9 agents, gang members. Everyone had been tracking his every move. But now, it is over. Meanwhile, the newspapers report that the Intai's ambassador has been murdered, and who claimed responsibility? The Aurora Order. Why would the Aurora Order openly take credit? Because they are a terrorist organization. They thrive on chaos and fear. Whenever something catastrophic happens, they enjoy announcing their involvement, proclaiming their power to the world. So, the Aurora Order has already publicly accepted responsibility for the assassination. Everything is settling down. No one suspects that the real commissioner of this assassination was Audrey Hall, a noblewoman from the Lowen Kingdom, daughter of Earl Hall himself. If that truth ever came to light, it would trigger a war between Intis and Lowen, but the Aurora Order has taken the blame, and the matter is closed. Everything worked out perfectly. Xiao and Fours read the newspaper and realize Backlund is actually dead. Mr. A must have completed the job. They decide to pay him the remaining balance immediately. They do not want any lingering debts with someone that dangerous. Audrey has the same thought. She arranges payment swiftly. Mr. A is far too dangerous to leave unpaid, and Klein had warned her explicitly, never appear before him personally. Always work through intermediaries. No one should ever know she commissioned the assassination. Meanwhile, in a dark basement somewhere in the city, Mr. A kneels in prayer. He wears a hooded robe, his face obscured. Before him stands a massive statue, 3 meters tall, depicting an upside-down man bound in chains, with a single eye. The statue represents the true creator. Another hooded figure enters the basement and addresses Mr. A. "I've spread the word. Everyone knows the Aurora Order carried out the assassination." The hooded man pauses, then asks, "Did you ever find out who originally commissioned the hit?" Mr. A shakes his head. "No, and there's no need to investigate further. Our primary mission is the return of our Lord, bringing him back to this world, to this plane of existence." Suddenly, Mr. A coughs violently. Blood spills from his mouth and drips onto the floor. He leans down, licks his own blood from the ground, and swallows it. The other man does not react. This behavior is not unusual. Back at Klein's residence, he is in a good mood. Everything has been resolved, but then he remembers. There is still one job left, Mary's case. He needs to photograph her husband in a compromising position as proof of infidelity. But there is a significant problem. How is he supposed to take a photograph when the camera's flash will go off the moment he presses the shutter? If he's trying to capture incriminating evidence while they're in the act, the flash will immediately alert them. The entire operation will fail. Klein glances in Miss Bodyguard's general direction. She is invisible again, but he knows she is nearby. "Do you have any way to use the camera without the flash going off?" Miss Bodyguard materializes in front of him. "Yes, I have a solution." She explains. She can shrink herself down and become translucent, then enter the camera's flash mechanism. By masking the flash from within, she'll reduce its intensity from 99% to about 1%. Just a faint glimmer, barely noticeable. Klein will be able to take photographs without drawing attention. Klein decides it is time to finish Mary's case. He heads directly to the Quilla Club. Once there, he spots his target, Mary's husband, Dorogu, who has arrived with a woman named Erica. The two head toward a private room together. Klein acts quickly. He slips into the room they've reserved ahead of them and hides inside the wardrobe with the camera in hand. Miss Bodyguard enters the camera's flash mechanism, as planned. Klein cracks the wardrobe door open slightly and waits. Moments later, Erica and Dorogu enter the room. Dorogu presents Erica with a gift, an expensive pair of stockings. Erica puts them on immediately, and the mood between them shifts. Their excitement builds, and soon, they are engaged in exactly the kind of activity Klein was hired to document. Klein begins taking photographs. Click, click, click. Not just one photo, dozens. He watches the scene unfold through the crack in the wardrobe door, thinking to himself, well, it is happening right in front of me. Quite the view. Then another thought strikes him. Miss Bodyguard is seeing all of this too. God, The things I have to do for just £7. He already received £3 as an advance, so 7 more will come once he delivers the evidence. Klein, who was initially worried about capturing even a single compromising photograph, now has an entire collection to choose from. He will select the clearest, most incriminating images to present to Mary. Once the couple finishes their session, Klein quietly opens the wardrobe, crawls out of the room unnoticed, and exits. Their encounter is still ongoing. They have no idea he was ever there. Klein heads to the club's cafeteria and turns to Miss Bodyguard. Would you like to eat something? Pineapple, perhaps? Food is complimentary here, and members can bring one guest. I'll treat you. Miss Bodyguard's expression remains completely neutral. No emotion, no reaction. She responds flatly, "No, I don't need to eat. I can go 2 weeks without food. You go ahead." That is all she says, brief, direct, emotionless. Klein shrugs and goes to eat alone. While dining, he encounters Dr. Aaron Series, one of the men who recommended Klein for club membership. They engage in light conversation. The topic shifts to current events, specifically, the assassination of the Intis Republic's ambassador, which dominated the newspapers. Klein plays his role perfectly. Yes, it is tragic. Perhaps detectives should be consulted more in matters like these. How ironic. Klein is the one who commissioned the entire operation in the first place. Dr. Aaron mentions that Mary is interested in joining the National Atmospheric Pollution Control Organization. Then, Aaron confides something troubling. Lately, his luck has been terrible. He's had multiple failed surgeries. He's fallen and injured himself. For the past few days, everything has gone wrong, as if he is cursed. Klein immediately senses something mystical is at play, but as Sherlock Moriarty, a mere detective, he cannot openly help with Beyonder matters. I'm not familiar with such things. I should be going. Klein leaves the club and heads straight to the bank. He withdraws £300 and hands the cash to Miss Bodyguard, payment for the first day. She will stay with him for 2 more days, receiving £300 each day. Since Miss Bodyguard is still accompanying him, Klein decides to take advantage of her presence. He heads to the Brave Hearts bar to visit the Beyonder gathering and see what is happening there. Having a powerful mid-sequence Beyonder as a bodyguard adds a certain aura, an extra layer of security, and intimidation. Klein sets off toward the Brave Hearts bar.
I will see you in the next one. Peace out.